Chapter 5:21. Oh! Yi Ching-han raised his eyebrows and narrowed his eyes. His mind spun like lightning, and he instantly understood. It seemed like the strength he had displayed had won Neo Potion's attention. Neo Patian had already recognized him as an equal existence and one of the strongest people in the team. Now it seemed like he was preparing to openly announce their alliance. This world was indeed fair. If you didn't reach this level of strength, no matter how good you were, no matter how loyal you were, you wouldn't be recognized by the other party. Only when one's strength reached the same level as him, or even higher than him, would he look at you seriously and treat you as an equal. Only then would you have the right to know some information and information that outsiders couldn't know, or in other words, secrets. Lord Patian, please speak. Yi Ching-han nodded indifferently, sat up straight, and listened attentively. Neo Potion's smile became even wider. Powerful people were divided into high cultivation and high intelligence. Needless to say, there was no need to mention Yi Ching-han's cultivation. He admired Yi Ching-han's extraordinary intelligence even more. It was comfortable to talk to smart people. He didn't waste any more time and started to explain in detail. First, I think I need to explain the baleful stream in detail to you so that you can be mentally prepared and better deal with unexpected situations. Yi Ching-han's eyes lit up. This was something he didn't understand. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. He wasn't familiar with the baleful stream. In fact, when he first encountered the Devil Dwellers, he didn't even know what they were. Moreover, he didn't understand the attack methods of the demons and other aspects. He was lucky enough to not die. Even if Neo Patian didn't take the initiative to find him, he would find Neo Patian to understand in detail. I've said before that the baleful stream is the weakest place between the divine world and 9 hells purgatory. We are now in one of the 13 baleful streams in Longyang Manor. However, this is a third-class baleful stream. Although it's dangerous, it's definitely not fatal. According to the information I have, it's almost impossible for an Azura to appear here. Therefore, the danger isn't absolute. Most of the demons outside the ancient castle are demons and demons. With our strength, we still have a chance to kill a large number of demons and escape with our lives. Of course, although more than 9 years have passed since the Blood Moon Day, we can't rule out the possibility of a living demon king. If we encounter a demon king, we will still fall. That's why we're relatively safe during this period of time. Grade 3 Baleful Stream? Blood Moon Sun? Yi Ching-han understood most of Neo Potion's words, but he was still puzzled by these two new terms. Neo Patian explained, in history, the places where an Azura king has appeared will be classified as a first-class Baleful stream. The places where an Azura has appeared will be classified as a second-class Baleful stream. The places where a demon king has appeared will be classified as a third-class Baleful stream. When we were teleported to the Baleful stream, I was the strongest among us, a third-level god general. According to the laws of the god world, we could only be teleported to the third-grade Baleful stream. Outside the castle, I have also carefully investigated and confirmed that this is the third-class Baleful stream. So that's how it is. Yi Ching-han was enlightened. Then he suddenly thought of something, and his eyes lit up. He asked anxiously, "What is it?" "Oh, right. According to what you're saying, the strongest cultivators sent here can only be peak god generals?" Seeing Neo Patian nod, Yi Ching-han felt much more relaxed. He had seen demons and demons before. Although they were terrifying and dangerous, they could still be easily dealt with as long as they were careful. Neo Patian had also said that there was a possibility of a living demon king. This meant that there were very few demon kings outside, or rather none at all. Right now, the greatest threat to the team was actually the demon hunting team, such as the Whip Tribe team that they had encountered not long ago. There were hundreds of squads in this castle. Although people were constantly dying, new warriors were constantly being sent to this place. If they encountered a large group of god kings outside, no matter how low-key the team was, there was always a possibility of conflict or being watched. Not to mention a few god kings, even a random god king would be able to wipe out their entire team. If it was just a team of god generals, they could at least put up a fight. Don't be too careless. The immortal realm is so big. You're not the only one who knows how to disguise their strength. Maybe there are god kings in some teams who disguise themselves as god generals? Neopatian gave Yi Qinghan a timely warning. Then he seemed to think of something, and his expression suddenly became very worried. He glanced at Niu Yaohua, who was sitting quietly, and then stared into Yi Qinghan's eyes. He suddenly transmitted his voice. Although the 4 god generals who escaped haven't returned to the castle yet, there's no guarantee that they won't divulge anything about young lady. If they do, young lady's identity will definitely attract the attention of some people. When that happens, I'm afraid that disaster will befall you. Young lady's identity will definitely attract a large number of people to spy on you. Yi Qinghan glanced at Niu Yaohua, who was sitting beside Neopatian. He looked at her perfect face and the 2 cute little devil horns on her head. He also understood that Niu Yaohua's identity was definitely not ordinary. Just the fact that she was able to reach such a terrifying level of strength at such a young age was already very unusual. However, he didn't ask much. He wasn't interested in Niu Yaohua's secret either. He had a lot of troubles to deal with and didn't have the time to care about other people's matters. As for Niu Yaohua's spiritual body, he wasn't the least bit curious. This was because Yi Qingyu had such a spiritual body. However, it was obvious that Niu Yaohua's spiritual body was even more mysterious. He felt that the strength that he had painstakingly cultivated was his true strength. If he obtained it through illegal means, he wouldn't feel at ease using it. For example, his slaughter god blade might have made him much stronger, but Yi Qinghan had the urge to throw it away a few times. If it wasn't for the fact that he was currently in a dangerous situation and that he could temporarily suppress his inner demons, he wouldn't have dared to use the slaughter god blade a long time ago. Although he was very lecherous, he wasn't interested in this kind of underdeveloped little girl. He always felt that no matter how perfect a woman was, if she didn't have an impressive figure, she wouldn't be considered a woman. Her breasts weren't even as big as his. What was the point? What was the smell? He glanced at Niu Yaohua and didn't bother about this matter. Instead, he turned to Neopatian and said, "The next time you leave the ancient castle, if you meet those 4 god generals, just kill them immediately." "All right. What did you say earlier about the Blood Moon Day?" "What do you mean?" Yi Qinghan only glanced at Niu Yaohua indifferently. He didn't continue asking, and instead asked about the Blood Moon Day. This caused Neopatian and Niu Yaohua to laugh at the same time. They quickly looked at each other and saw a trace of satisfaction, praise, and relief in each other's eyes. Chapter 522. Actually, the 2 came here today for another purpose. They wanted to observe Yi Qinghan in secret. Niu Yaohua's identity was exposed by the Niuhua tribe. Many people in the team were probably thinking about it. A spirit physique that could allow a peak divine general to break through the bottleneck and ascend to the divine king realm. This news was too shocking, and people couldn't help but think about it. As a member of the team, Yi Qinghan's strength was the most important. If he harbored any ill intentions, Neopatian and Niu Yaohua would definitely be wary of him. They might even think of a way to make him leave the team. Yi Qinghan's clear eyes showed that he didn't care at all. His attitude of not asking about anything made the 2 of them very satisfied, and they also praised him greatly. They let out a sigh of relief. Although Yi Qinghan seemed to be in disguise, Neopatian suddenly mentioned Niu Yaohua's identity. The 2 stared at Yi Qinghan's eyes at the same time. No matter how a person pretended to be, their eyes couldn't lie. As long as a person's emotions were in turmoil, their eyes would be the first to react. Their pupils would definitely change. However, Yi Qinghan didn't change at all. He was very magnanimous. This made the 2 of them feel extremely relaxed and happy. Their trust and favorable impression of Yi Qinghan increased a little. "You don't know about the Blood Moon Day?" Neopatian pondered for a moment. He was a little confused. This Yi Qinghan was strong, but he seemed to be a complete idiot when it came to common sense in the divine world. He didn't even have a divine world badge. His strength was also very strange. He was only a 2nd-layer celestial god, but he could kill a peak divine general? However, Yi Qinghan had saved their lives. Neopatian was a little confused, but he still chose to believe him. He didn't ask too much and explained, The Blood Moon Day occurs once every 10 years in the divine world. On that day, the two demonic moons in the sky will turn blood red. It's very strange. This is one of the ancient secrets of the divine world. No one knows why. On that day, the space of the divine world will be extremely unstable. Large numbers of demons, demon kings, or asuras will descend from every baleful stream. As for our grade 3 fiend stream, there will be countless fiend kings descending. Of course, on that day, Longyang Manor would send out a large number of god kings to wipe them out. It would last for 3 months, and these 3 months could be considered to be very safe. However, after the 3 months, the divine kings will retreat, leaving only a small team to patrol for 3 years. At that time, the Valley of Baleful would become extremely dangerous and fatal. Because the Valley of Baleful was vast, the army of godly kings would not be able to kill all the fiend kings that descended. There would always be some that escaped. Although 3 months have passed, the space is still very unstable. There will still be a small number of demons descend. The small teams will be able to patrol. Therefore, the year after the day of the blood moon will be the year with the highest death rate for demon hunters in Baleful stream. It is commonly known as the year of the blood moon calamity. If that's the case, Yi Qinghan was inwardly apprehensive as he listened. He thought of the countless demon kings rampaging outside the ancient castle and the scene of martial artists being torn apart and demonized. He couldn't help but feel his hair stand on end. That was definitely a martial artist's nightmare. It was hell on earth. No wonder there were so many demon dwellers. Now it seemed that they were all martial artists demonized by the demon kings. Then he suddenly thought of something and his body stiffened. His eyes widened as he looked at Neopatian and said, "I remember you said that the day of the blood moon has already passed for more than 9 years. Accurately speaking, it's been 9 years and 6 months. There are still 6 months before the blood moon day arrives again." Neopatian and Neo Hua revealed a bitter smile at the same time. Neopatian said solemnly, "So we only have 6 months. If we can't earn enough points in these 6 months, when the blood moon day arrives, almost all of us will die. There are no exceptions. However, if we want to earn enough points in 6 months with our strength, it will be very difficult." Yi Qinghan shivered. That was a demon king. He was equivalent to a peak god general. Furthermore, his attack style was different from that of the Divine Realms warriors. He was probably even more terrifying than a beginner god king. The Hua tribe, who were peak god generals, were all so strong. But when they heard about the demon king, their expressions changed. If they could encounter a demon king casually outside the castle, then their chances of survival would be pitiful. So, after the blood moon day, it would be very difficult to survive, let alone earn points. It could be said that they only had 6 months. Only by earning 1,000 points in these 6 months could they leave Baleful stream. Yi Qinghan had just relaxed, but now he was on tenterhooks again. He could only think of a way to earn as many points as possible in these few months and leave this damn place as soon as possible. Thinking of points, he suddenly remembered that he had obtained a few spatial rings, but he hadn't had the time or the mood to check them. Perhaps there were demonic tokens inside. These were tokens of points. He immediately took out the space rings with a flip of his hand. He extended the senses of his soul and began to inspect the space rings. He became overjoyed as soon as he did so. He raised his head and asked Neopatian, "Divine General Patian, how many tokens or points do you have right now?" "Not many. Only a few dozen points." "Why? Do you have them?" Neopatian and Neo Hua's eyes lit up at the same time. They looked at the spatial ring in Yi Qinghan's hand with pleasant surprise. "Ha, our luck is heaven-defying. I have more than 300 tokens in this ring. Just the spatial ring alone has close to 300 tokens. Divine General Patian will give them all to you. Keep them well. Once the owner of a spatial ring died, it would become ownerless. Yi Qinghan could easily control it. With a wave of his hand, a large pile of demonic horns appeared in the room. There were at least a few hundred pairs. The Hua tribe experts worked hard to accumulate points for God knows how many years, but now they are all ours. Together with the points I have about 400. If we're lucky, we should be able to accumulate enough points in 6 months. Brother Yi, if we can escape this place, you'll be the one to take the credit. Neopatian didn't stand on ceremony and picked up the demonic horns. This was actually the second reason they had come here. They had already expected that there would be some demonic horns in the spatial rings of the Wa tribe experts, but they hadn't expected there to be so many of them. What he didn't expect was that Yi Qinghan would hand it over to him so readily, which surprised him. At this moment, Neopatian and Neo Huahua's hearts were boiling. It had only been half a month, and they had already obtained 400 points. There was still half a year until the Blood Moon Day. They had to take a gamble and accumulate the remaining 600 points. Yi Qinghan's heart was burning with passion, but he was pondering in his heart. The next time he went out, could he consider not hunting demons, but hunting warrior squads? This time he had obtained a few hundred points. If he killed a few experts like the Wa tribe, would he have enough points unknowingly? Chapter 5:23. Neopatian pondered for a moment before saying, Brother Yi, I have a question that I don't know if I should ask. However, please believe me, I have no ill intentions. Oh? Please ask, Divine General Patian. Yi Qinghan smiled inwardly. He finally couldn't hold it in any longer. He already knew what Neopatian wanted to ask. I'm very curious. Is there something wrong with your strength? You don't seem to know anything about the immortal realm. Why did you appear in the Fireward tribe with your strength? You don't even have an immortal realm badge. What happened? Neopatian asked all the questions in his mind. These questions didn't concern them. Everyone in the courtyard wanted to ask, but they didn't dare to. When Neopatian saw that Yi Qinghan didn't have much of a reaction, he let out a sigh of relief. Without waiting for Yi Qinghan to speak, he continued, Of course, little brother, if you have any difficulties, you don't have to say it. I'm taking the liberty of asking because I want to see if I can help you. If your strength can return to its peak, or even go one step further than it is now, it will be a great help to our team. If there's anything you need, please tell us, and we will do our best to help you. Neopatian was a good person. After hearing Neopotian's words, Yi Qinghan didn't blame him at all. Instead, he was even more certain of this person. He narrowed his eyes and pondered for a long time before he finally said, I won't explain much about my strength. Perhaps you can understand it as my body undergoing some changes and some memories have disappeared. However, I can guarantee that I have a good impression of most of the people in the Firework tribe. I admire Divine General Patian and Miss Firework very much. I can't guarantee anything in the future, but I will definitely be on your side in the Balefulline stream. As for my strength, I have 2nd level Celestial Strength and 3rd level Celestial Soul. These are my weaknesses, so I won't argue. Do you have any spirit medicine or pills that can help me improve in a short period of time? If I can improve it, my strength will definitely skyrocket by several times. After saying that, Yi Qinghan looked at the two of them with hope. His laws had long since reached the divine general realm, but his divine power and soul had not improved, so he could not completely advance to the divine general realm. If Neopatian and Neo Huanhua had divine pills or something like that, it would be great. All right. After hearing Yi Qinghan's words, Neopatian slapped his thigh and stood up. He exchanged a glance with Neo Yanhua, and the two of them nodded at the same time. Their eyes were burning with excitement. They thought that Yi Qinghan was originally a powerhouse. If his strength could increase, he would have done so long ago. They didn't have much hope, but now they didn't expect Yi Qinghan to be able to increase his strength in such a short time. To them, this was another joyous occasion of the day. Yi Qinghan threw a few hundred tokens to Neopatian without hesitation. At that moment, he gained their unreserved trust. If Yi Qinghan secretly sold these few hundred points in the castle, he would be able to exchange them for a very large amount of divine stones and treasures. Moreover, Yi Qinghan went to save them despite knowing the danger. This made the two of them very grateful. Most importantly, Yi Qinghan didn't steal Neo Huanhua's spirit body. Combining these points, Neopatian and Neo Huanhua completely let down their guard and treated Yi Qinghan as one of their own. Since he was one of their own, then his strength could skyrocket, which was equivalent to their own strength skyrocketing. That way, he would be more confident in protecting everyone in the next 6 months, and at the same time, he would be able to obtain enough points. Niu Patien didn't have pills that could increase divine power, but Niu Huanhua had them. Niu Huanhua also had pills that could improve the soul. Niu Huanhua's identity was special. To be able to reach such terrifying strength at such a young age, how could she be lacking in divine pills? Niu Yaoyin stood up and touched her spatial ring. 2 green jade bottles appeared in her hand. She stared at the 2 jade bottles with her limpid eyes. Reluctance flashed in her eyes as she spoke for the first time. Brother Yi, this is a scarlet dragon pill. It can increase your divine force for a short period of time. You should be able to reach the divine general realm at the very least. The other bottle contains summer worm grass, a wondrous medicine that nourishes the soul. It can at least help your soul break through to the 2nd level of the divine general realm. These are the best pills I have on me. They are also very precious. I hope you won't disappoint me. Although Yi Qinghan didn't know what these pills were, he could feel that these 2 bottles of pills were definitely very powerful and extremely valuable. He couldn't help but reveal an expression of ecstasy on his face. He let out a long sigh and very quickly reached out to take the pill. He said very firmly, Miss Firework, don't worry. Your safety will be protected by me in the future. Just wait and see. As expected, his efforts had paid off. He had made the right bet. When he found out that Niu Patien and Niu Huanhua were surrounded by a group of divine generals, he had thought of leaving them to their own devices. However, he wasn't familiar with this place. Without Niu Patien and Niu Huanhua, he wouldn't be able to survive. Therefore, he let a large group of demons to pass by. In the end, a blind cat ran into a dead mouse, and he succeeded. This was his first sacrifice. Just now, he didn't hesitate to throw a few hundred demonic tokens over. This was his 2nd sacrifice. Not only did he gain Niu Patien and Niu Huanhua's unconditional trust, he also received 2 bottles of extremely important and precious pills. As long as he cultivated his divine power and soul to the divine general realm, he would become a true divine general expert. With his soul in chaos, he was basically invincible in the divine general realm. He had no pressure against the demons and could even fight against the Demon King. In the baleful Yin stream, he could finally control his own fate. Lord, you didn't come to find us? Bing Xue and Bing Xue were a bit absent-minded these few days, especially when the purple moon rose. The 2 of them stared at the purple moon through the window. They were waiting for Yi Qinghan to come and punish them. However, the 2 of them could only sleep alone every night. 5 days later, they couldn't take it anymore. They shamelessly went to Yi Qinghan's room, but were stopped by Xiaohe. Xiaohe didn't explain anything. He only said that Yi Qinghan would come to find them in the future and chase them away rudely. This made the 2 of them uneasy. They had finally found someone they could rely on and was interested in them. But now he suddenly changed his mind? How could they not be worried? Yi Qianrao was also worried. After kicking Yi Qinghan's little brother, she didn't pay attention to Yi Qinghan anymore. After returning to the castle, Yi Qinghan didn't show up again. She couldn't help but feel regret. Her kick had touched Yi Qinghan. Her heart was like the rain, fog, and wind drifting. It wasn't until half a month of rest was over that their hearts completely calmed down. Yi Qinghan's strange behavior also surprised the other members of the team and the people in the castle. Xiaohe transformed again. Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged on his body and meditated with his eyes closed. They were about to go out to hunt demons and leave Cang Long Castle, but Yi Qinghan was still cultivating. Niu Hua and Niu Patien, on the other hand, were not surprised at all. Instead, they guarded Yi Qinghan closely, and from time to time, their eyes would glance at Yi Qinghan's delicate and pretty face, and their hearts were filled with incomparable anticipation. They wondered if refining these 2 divine pellets would be as he had said, and his strength would increase explosively. Chapter 524. What the hell is Lord Yi doing? What can he achieve in such a short amount of time? Don't tell me he's going to make a huge breakthrough? Bing Xue looked resentfully at Yi Qinghan. who was standing like a log on Xiaohei's back, and turned to look at Bingyu. Swear, don't talk nonsense. Don't you see Lord Patian and Miss Fireworks guarding him? Who knows, he might really make a huge breakthrough. Bingyu was also very nervous. Their relationship with Yi Qinghan was developing very quickly, and they almost did it that day. They didn't expect such a sudden change, and the two of them were slightly worried, acting all mysterious and mystifying. Who knows what he's up to again? This man is definitely not a good person. Yi Qingrao, have you forgotten the injuries you suffered back then? You can't trust any man anymore. Definitely not. Yi Qingrao kept repeating in her heart, forcing herself not to look at Yi Qinghan, warning herself not to make the same mistake again. But why couldn't her eyes control themselves to drift in that direction? Without a doubt, from the inside to the outside of the castle, Yi Qinghan became the focus of everyone's attention. They were already dozens of li away from the castle, and they could encounter demons and enemies at any time. But Yi Qinghan was still like a log, not worried or apprehensive at all, and continued to cultivate with his eyes closed. Only Niu Patian, Niu Fireworks, and Xiaohei were present, and they didn't find it strange at all. This was because Yi Qinghan had told them before he went into seclusion. He wanted them to guard him, and not to wake him unless it was absolutely necessary. Are there new martial artists being sent here? Suddenly, a group of martial artists in front of them attracted Niu Potion's attention. He waved his hand, and everyone stopped in their tracks. When he saw that the one at the front was God King Xiui from the ancient castle, his body relaxed slightly. God King Xiui was in charge of receiving new martial artists that were sent over. This was no secret in Blue Dragon Ancient Castle. Back then, it was God King Xiui who had brought them into the old castle. Niu Patian had already investigated and found out that there were 5 God Kings in the old castle. It was said that one of them was the strongest and was infinitely close to the God Emperor realm. However, he had never shown himself before. The other 4 God Kings, on the other hand, were seen frequently. All of them are peak divine champions? Behind God King Xiu, he was a row of prefecture soldiers. Behind the prefecture soldiers, there were close to 100 people. Niu Potion's heart skipped a beat. The Longyang prefecture was vast and boundless, and the number of God-tier martial artists there was uncountable. Every day, there would be countless martial artists who would violate the dignity of the Longyang prefecture and challenge the iron laws of the divine realm. Furthermore, there were countless god bandits within the prefecture. Every time there was a purge, the god prison would be filled to the brim. In the end, a large portion of these people were sent to the 13 streams of Fiend. Therefore, Niu Patian wouldn't be surprised even if thousands of divine champions were sent here at once. But this time, nearly 100 people were teleported here, and all of them were peak divine champions. Niu Patian couldn't help but be puzzled by this. It couldn't be such a coincidence that nearly 100 peak divine champions were locked up in the same prison, and they were sent here. It was just that this group of people seemed to be in a hurry. In the blink of an eye, they passed the crowd and headed towards the ancient castle. Niu Patian didn't think too much about it and continued to lead the group forward. Niu Patian wasn't the only one who was puzzled by this group of experts. The moment they stepped into the ancient castle, all the teams taking turns to pay attention to them. Divine generals weren't strange, and peak stage divine generals weren't rare either. However, nearly 100 peak stage divine generals were a terrifying force. There were hundreds of teams in the ancient castle, and the strongest team only had slightly more than 50 peak divine champions. Without a doubt, this new force became the strongest team in the ancient Blue Dragon Castle. Under normal circumstances, the god prisons in the various cities of the Longyang prefecture would gather a group of people and send them to the streams of Fiend. Or, like the Firework tribe, the entire team would be sent here together. Therefore, the strength of the teams varied, not to mention the fact that they were all peak divine champions. Although God King Xiui had his doubts, he clearly didn't want to be nosy since the higher-ups had sent them here. Moreover, there were 5 god kings in the ancient castle, so he wasn't afraid of these people causing trouble. He led the team to a courtyard and gave them some instructions before turning to leave. "Sir, please wait a moment. A voice transmission made him stop in his tracks. He chuckled inwardly. It seemed like something good was about to happen. He waved his hand and dismissed his subordinate official army before turning to look coldly at the person who sent the voice transmission. "What's the matter?" "Sir, my brothers are very unfamiliar with the streams of Fiend. I hope that you can explain it to us." The one who spoke was a black-clothed man with brown curly hair, a muscular body, and a face full of sideburns. As he spoke, he was smiling from ear to ear. He lowered his back slightly and quickly handed over an interspatial ring. His movements were practiced and natural. God King Shioi's consciousness quickly scanned the interspatial ring on his hand, and his cold face immediately broke into a smile. They were indeed generous. These people really had ulterior motives. Although his expression changed instantly, he didn't put away the interspatial ring on his hand. Instead, he released his god domain and said indifferently, "I won't do anything that goes against the rules of the ancient castle." "Ha, sir, you're indeed straightforward. Of course, we won't make things difficult for you. We've just arrived at the streams of Fiend and would like to rest for a while. I wonder if you can allow us to rest for a month? After a month, we brothers will naturally go out to hunt demons. Of course, we definitely won't go against the rules of the ancient castle." The huge man with the full beard smiled and spoke very respectfully. "You want to change the time you go out to hunt demons? Looks like some of the demon hunting teams are going to suffer." God King Shioi's expression relaxed completely this time. He put away the interspatial ring and god domain and nodded indifferently. "That's a small matter. I'll allow it. Don't go overboard with other things. If you go against the rules, I won't be able to protect you. Good things come to light. Of course, we know the rules." The smile on the huge man's face deepened as he nodded repeatedly. When God King Shioi's figure completely disappeared from the courtyard, the smile on his face faded completely, and a cold glint shot out from his eyes. "Big brother, you've already confirmed the target?" Once God King Shioi left, the few hundred people in the courtyard all flew into their rooms to rest. Their movements were clean and efficient, just like a well-trained army. Only 2 people were left in the courtyard behind the huge man with the full beard. One of them laughed sinisterly and asked in a low voice. Seeing the huge man nod, the other said with some worry, "Big brother, the Blood Moon Day is about to arrive. Why don't you get that God King to immediately send us out to hunt demons? We can kill the target as soon as possible and accumulate enough points to leave the streams of Fiend. No rush. There are still 6 months until the Blood Moon Day. In this grade 3 streams of Fiend, the strongest team only has a few dozen peak divine general realms. Points are very easy to obtain. With the target confirmed, the mission this time will be very easy. We just returned from the Phoenix Glow Mountain Range and are coming to the streams of Fiend now. Let the brothers rest for a month. Tell them that after this mission is completed, everyone will go to Fallen Red City and have fun for 10 years. "Huh?" The huge man with the full beard waved his hand casually. "Fallen Red City. 10 years. Big brother is really generous this time. Wah! The brothers will definitely go crazy with joy when they hear this news." The 2 cultivators were overjoyed when they heard this. They cupped their hands and flew into the room behind them. Clearly, they could not wait to tell this news to everyone who was resting. Chapter 5:25. Walking on the desert again, looking at the raging yellow sand that filled the sky, looking at the countless gravel on the ground, looking at the desolate rocks everywhere, everyone's feelings were somewhat complicated. Seeing this desolate desert for the first time, everyone was slightly curious. Looking at the strangely shaped rocks around, some people were even very excited to comment. It was just that after more than a month, the few thousand people that came together now only had a little over 50 people left. Although it was not clear if the remaining people were all dead, they still continued to wander around this desert like flies. But just the first demon hunting, the team only had so few people left. They did not know how many people would be left the next time they left the ancient castle, or were they all annihilated? Even Nyo Patian and Nyo Huahua were infected by this desolate aura after leaving the ancient castle again. Inside and outside the castle were two completely different times. Inside the ancient castle, everyone did not need to worry about safety and did not need to think too much. But once they left the ancient castle, everyone's hearts would be inexplicably infected, involuntarily producing a kind of pessimistic mood, and their imaginations would run wild, and their hearts would be in a mess. Sir, why are we running around like this? Can't we roam around the vicinity of the ancient castle? A celestial deity in the team saw Nyo Patian leading everyone straight into the distance, getting further and further away from the ancient castle, and could not help asking in puzzlement. He subconsciously felt that there were 5 divine kings in the ancient castle, so it would be safer near the ancient castle no matter what. Also, it was easy to get lost if they left the ancient castle too far. You cannot stay within 100 miles of the ancient castle, otherwise you will be killed without mercy. This is the rule of every Fiend stream. Nyo Patian swept a glance at this martial artist and explained to everyone. If everyone gathers near the ancient castle, it's very easy to attract large numbers of fiends and devils to besiege the ancient castle. At that time, it will be troublesome to enter and exit the ancient castle normally. Therefore, you are not allowed to stay within 100 miles of the ancient castle of Fiend stream. If you are discovered, it will definitely be a dead end. If you get lost and don't know how to return to the ancient castle, you just need to remember, when the demonic moon rises, just walk in the opposite direction of that side-shaped demonic moon. You will definitely find Blue Dragon Ancient Castle. Oh, that's how it is. Everyone made a mental note that if they were to be separated from the team, they could always return to Tsang Long Castle alone to meet up with everyone else. They all understood that Nyo Patian didn't mention it last time because there were many low-level martial artists in the team in the past. A martial artist's strength was equivalent to the information he obtained. This world is very cruel. Without strength, you don't even have the qualifications to talk to the strong. The small team continued to wander in the Gobi Desert at a moderate pace. Nyo Patian and Nyo Huahua guarded Yi Qinghan, while Nyo Zhantian and the others were scattered around the small team, spreading their divine senses to scout the surroundings. After wandering outside for 2 days, the team encountered many demons and demons, but Nyo Patian chose to avoid them all. As long as they discovered demons, demonic humans, or cultivators, they would immediately flee without any hesitation. This also made everyone understand one thing, and at the same time, their hearts burned with passion. Nyo Potion's actions were clearly to protect Yi Qinghan. This meant that this mysterious Lord Yi was definitely at a critical moment in his cultivation. In other words, once he finished cultivating, his strength would definitely have a huge breakthrough. If he could already kill a peak godly general before breaking through, wouldn't he be even more terrifying after breaking through? Everyone shuddered at the thought. The stronger Yi Qinghan was, the safer they would be, and the greater their chances of leaving this place would be. However, 2 days later, when Yi Qinghan opened his eyes and stopped cultivating, everyone was slightly disappointed and doubtful. The moment Yi Qinghan opened his eyes, his body suddenly glowed with a red light, and a red light flashed in his eyes as well. That's right, this was a sign of a breakthrough. Yi Qinghan had broken through to the godly general realm. However, this was very different from what everyone had expected. They had thought that since Yi Qinghan could kill a peak godly general, his strength must have reached the peak godly general realm. The second-tier celestial god strength that he displayed now must have been a disguise. Unexpectedly, he had really just broken through to the godly general realm. Was it a coincidence that he could kill that peak godly general? However, how could he explain his sneak attack that killed 2 godly generals in an instant? No matter how they thought about it, they were all confused. Big Brother Yi, how was it? Nyo Patian and Nyo Huihua were not the least bit confused. When they saw Yi Qinghan, they blinked their big eyes and asked in anticipation. "Ha! Lady Huihua, how can I bear to disappoint you?" Yi Qinghan laughed heartily. He was in a good mood and actually teased Nyo Huihua. After he finished speaking, he jumped up from Xiao Hei's back. While he was in midair, his body moved like a swimming dragon. At the same time, he took out the slaughter god saber from his interspatial ring and brandished it in the air. Green saber waves shot out from the saber and transformed into streaks of shooting stars that flew in all directions. Boss, after you broke through to the godly general realm, your speed and attack power have increased greatly. Xiao Hei's two black eyes stared at Yi Qinghan in midair with a face full of joy. Yi Qinghan's current attack speed and movement speed were obviously many times faster than before. The saber light that he spat out was also bigger than before. More importantly, the terrifying energy contained in the crescent saber light was obviously many times stronger than before. Now, when facing an evil demon, he could easily disperse the evil demon's aura and kill it easily. Niu Huihua, Niu Patian, and everyone else blinked their eyes and started to have doubts in their hearts. Yi Qinghan, no matter how they looked at him, he looked like a martial artist who had just broken through to the godly general realm. Why did he not disappoint them? Where did his strong self-confidence come from? As long as I get close to an ordinary godly general, I can definitely kill them in an instant. As for a peak stage godly general, if my sneak attack is successful, I have a 90% chance of killing them in an instant. Yi Qinghan's sudden voice transmission made Niu Huihua and Niu Potion's doubts disappear. Yi Qinghan wasn't someone who boasted. Ordinary god generals could instantly kill a bunch of them. What was going on? Even a peak stage godly general would not dare to say such a thing. It seemed that they had made the right bet. If Niu Huihua or Niu Patian consumed these two spirit medicines, the effects would not be that great. They would only increase their divine power and soul power, but would not deepen their comprehension of laws. If a godly rank expert wanted their strength to increase explosively, they had to comprehend laws. Haha, Xiao Hei merge! Yi Qinghan flipped over and rushed to the ground. He transmitted his voice to Xiao Hei and merged with Xiao Hei in an instant. Then, a soul chaos enveloped everyone present. As expected, everyone fainted, only waking up after a while. When they did, they all looked at each other in dismay. Seeing the warm smile on Yi Qinghan's face, they all broke out in a cold sweat. No one dared to doubt Yi Qinghan's strength anymore. If Yi Qinghan had wanted to kill them just now, he could have killed them all in an instant. At this moment, Yi Qinghan's position in everyone's hearts had far surpassed Niu Potion's. He had become the team's #1. Meanwhile, Bing Shui and Bing Yu were looking at Yi Qinghan in a different light. Even Night Enchantress and Niu Huihua's limpid eyes were filled with splendor. Powerful and mysterious men always had a fatal attraction to women. Yi Qinghan let out a long breath and suppressed the urge to roar at the sky. He thought to himself, it feels good to have great strength and control my own fate. After breaking through to the godly general realm, this young master no longer needs to follow the flow of baleful Een stream and tremble in fear. I finally have hope of leaving this place. Chapter 526. Ha! Ja! After witnessing Yi Qinghan's sudden increase in strength, the Fireworks Tribe's team's confidence was boosted. The team moved around quickly. In the past, they would hide when they met demons. Now, they took the initiative to look for demons. 1 hour later, the team encountered a demon. All of them took out their weapons and released energy waves as they surrounded the demon and attacked it. As expected, after reaching the god general realm, the power of my energy attacks is much stronger. Yi Qinghan took the lead and waved the slaughter god blade. A crescent-shaped green blade light flew out of his body and directly attacked the demonic aura that was churning nonstop. The black fog that was rapidly spreading over became sluggish. Furthermore, it was visible to the naked eye that the black fog had shrunk. Yi Qinghan was elated. He had not finished refining the red dragon elixir's medicinal powers. Once he finished refining it, his divine power would reach the second stage of the god general realm. His soul cultivation had already reached the second stage of the god general realm. Although Xiao Hei had already entered the heaven god realm, and his overall strength had reached the peak of the heaven god realm, the divine power in his body was very little. Therefore, after the fusion, Yi Qinghan's divine power did not increase by much. Instead, his soul strength increased significantly. After the fusion, his soul strength had reached the third stage of the God General realm. However, Yi Qinghan was already very satisfied. Soul confusion was a spiritual type divine skill. It was similar to an innate ability, although it was not as powerful as the God Eater skill. If the enemy's soul strength had not reached the third stage of the God General realm, they would definitely fall for it. Moreover, the martial artists that Yi Qinghan met in the baleful Yin stream did not seem to have a high soul cultivation. Wait! As he pondered, the demon aura outside the demon's body was completely dispersed. Neopatian wanted to make a move. However, Yi Qinghan stopped him. After everyone's attack was over, Yi Qinghan leaped up and pounced towards the infuriated demon. Now that his speed was slightly faster than the demon, he was not worried that the demon would hurt him. Therefore, he wanted to see if soul confusion was effective against the demon. The purple light lit up, but the demon did not stop. It waved its sharp claws and pounced towards Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's body flashed as he swung the slaughter god's saber, wanting to send the demon flying. But something happened that made him very surprised. The slaughter god's saber slashed on the demon's shoulder, and a black light shone. However, it was as if the saber had slashed on the demon's body. In an instant, the demon was eroded and turned into black dust, disappearing into the yellow sand that filled the sky. All that was left was a pair of demon horns that were connected together. When the horns fell onto the gravel on the ground, a pung-pung sound could be heard. Seeing Yi Qinghan kill the demon with a casual slash, the martial artists in the field secretly cheered. However, Neopatian and Neo Huahua's eyes lit up as they locked onto the slaughter god blade in Yi Qinghan's hand. They immediately averted their eyes and pretended to be normal. This saber is very strange. Both of them knew very well that this demon only had one weakness, and that was the head between the two horns. He wouldn't die instantly no matter how hard he tried. Even God Kings didn't have this ability. The only explanation was that there was something strange about Yi Qinghan's saber. Brother Yi, let me be the one to kill the demon in the future. You are using a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. Ha! Neopatian thought for a moment and decided that he had to remind Yi Qinghan. After all, if this scene was seen by other martial artists, they would definitely realize that this saber was different from the others. At that time, it would be troublesome if they wanted to steal it. Thus, he tactfully reminded Yi Qinghan. All right, then I will have to trouble Lord Patian. Yi Qinghan floated down to the ground. There was not a single trace of abnormality on his face. Deep down, he was extremely shocked and secretly felt grateful to Neopatian. It seems like this saber can't be used to kill demons in the future. If it is exposed, the consequences will be dire. This saber seems to be the nemesis of demons? Or is it a demonic weapon? Not only is it effective against demons, but it also has the same effect against demons. After thinking for a moment, Yi Qinghan kept the slaughter god's saber into his spatial ring without leaving a trace. He secretly decided that if there was no need, it would be better to use this saber less. Everyone only stopped for a moment before continuing to look for demons and collect points. Although the team did not have many people, the weakest among them was at least at the third level of Heaven God. After a few battles, their teamwork became better. In just a short span of 2 days, he had already killed more than 20 demons. Neopatian also transmitted a message to everyone. Currently, he already had 400 points in his hands. Everyone's fighting spirit rose even higher. They roamed around day and night, looking for demons everywhere. They wanted to kill more demons as soon as possible and leave the baleful Yin stream. This close, yet worlds apart, is really hard to cultivate. After so long, I still haven't comprehended the true meaning of this movement technique. Could it be that I am comprehending it in the wrong direction? While looking for demons, Yi Qinghan did not forget to cultivate close, yet worlds apart. Although he had advanced to the God General realm and his speed was much faster, if he could be faster, he would not reject it. Furthermore, he had already learned close, yet worlds apart. He could not give up now. Someone is coming over. Everyone be careful. Prepare for battle. Neopatian suddenly stopped in his tracks. His divine power surged as he shouted. Yi Qinghan stopped practicing and immediately took out the slaughter god blade. He also felt that there were many martial artists coming over. Furthermore, they were very fast. If the team tried to escape, it would be very difficult for everyone to escape. It was not hard to meet martial artists in the baleful Yin stream. However, after everyone used their divine senses to detect each other's presence, they would take a detour and go their own way. It was very rare for them to directly rush over. Everyone started to feel apprehensive. They hoped that they were not coming for them. Swish! A series of air-piercing sounds rang out as a group of people rushed over from afar. At a glance, there were at least a few hundred people. At the very front were over 50 martial artists dressed in red battle armor. These 50 martial artists were the fastest. Furthermore, they had an invisible baleful aura that made people's hearts palpitate. It was obvious that they were people who killed people like flies. Behind them, there were over 200 martial artists following behind them. All of them had cold looks on their faces as they rushed over. Yi Qinghan used his divine senses and his heart tightened. These 50 martial artists had terrifying auras and surging divine powers. They were all god generals. Furthermore, they were all high-grade god generals. A few of them were definitely at the peak of the god general realm. Pink robes, devil horns, and a beautiful little girl. Bring that god general over and let him recognize this little girl. Is she the person he is talking about? It seems like my luck is going to change today. This group of people released their domineering auras unscrupulously as they rushed over. They immediately spread out and surrounded Yi Qinghan and the others. All of them had weapons in their hands and were filled with killing intent. However, their eyes were all locked onto Niu Yaohua. The one who spoke was a very short martial artist. He was less than 5 meters tall. He looked like a dwarf, but his aura was rather domineering. He sized up Niu Yaohua carefully, then turned to look at the martial artists rushing over. He roared loudly. His voice was like a cow's roar. It was deep and impactful. It was like the dull sound of a drum that pounded on everyone's hearts, making them feel extremely uncomfortable. Yes, my lord, it's her. My former boss is talking about her. I'm talking about this little girl. A martial artist dressed in fiery red battle armor and a god general flashed over and pointed at Niu Yaohua while shouting. Everyone in the firework tribe felt their hearts sink at this moment. Yi Qinghan's eyes narrowed into slits. This was because this martial artist was one of the 4 Hua tribe subordinates who had escaped the other day. Protect yourselves. Lord Patian, bring Miss Firework and the others to break out of the encirclement. Yi Qinghan roared. He knew that today's situation would not end well until one side was dead. He did not want to wait any longer. He immediately merged with his beast, and his body turned into a raging dragon. A purple light shone as the slaughter god blade turned into a black bolt of lightning and slashed towards the dwarf martial artist. Chapter 527. You are courting death. Attack. Cripple everyone for me. The dwarf coldly snorted and had a look of disdain on his face. Against Yi Qinghan's attack, his short body didn't retreat. The square-shaped gray hammer in his hand glowed with a white light as it smashed towards Yi Qinghan's head. The moment the hammer left his hand, it immediately grew bigger and bigger. Furthermore, its speed was getting faster and faster. With a terrifying pressure, it collided with Yi Qinghan's slaughter god blade. Bang! Yi Qinghan felt a huge force smashing against the slaughter god blade. He felt an intense pain in his palm, and the slaughter god blade was nearly sent flying. His chest felt stuffy, and even the soul chaos that he was about to release was stopped. His body was also sent flying by this terrifying force. Damn, this dwarf is so strong. A casual attack from him is actually so powerful. Is this the metal elemental law? Yi Qinghan quickly kicked a few times in the air to stabilize his body. He activated his divine senses and felt a few air-piercing sounds coming from behind him. He immediately activated his absolute domain, and at the same time, a purple light lit up. His body twisted forcefully, and the slaughter god blade drew a semicircle in the air as it swept behind him. Swish! 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 A black light flashed, and 3 human heads floated in the air. At the same time, 3 divine crystals and interspatial rings floated up. Yi Qinghan used his divine senses to scan the surroundings. His attack had stunned the people around him. He didn't bother to collect his spoils of war. Instead, he transformed into a flood dragon and rushed towards the densely packed crowd behind him. He shot straight into the enemy's formation, courting death. Seeing that after Yi Qinghan killed 3 people, he actually rushed towards their own group of people, countless martial artists were enraged. They took out their weapons and attacked Yi Qinghan in a frenzy. However, they felt that their attacks on the black smoke around Yi Qinghan's body had no effect at all. Then, they saw a bewitching purple light, and their souls instantly fainted. When they woke up, they found that their souls were being sucked out by a powerful suction force. In the blink of an eye, the few people who attacked them died instantly. Swish, swish, swish. A few more heads floated up. While everyone was still in a daze, Yi Qinghan's body continued to rush inside. Following the flash of purple light, Yi Qinghan's body began to emit black mist. Like a black spear, he pierced through the enemy's formation in an incomparably domineering manner. Everywhere he passed, heads flew into the air, and he was like a ferocious wolf charging into a flock of sheep. With a flip of his hand, he beheaded a group of them, and he was unstoppable. Bullshit. Low-level divine generals, get out of my way. Your attacks are useless against him. In just a few seconds, more than 10 heads had floated up. Everyone was shocked. The first to react was the dwarf warrior leader. He stomped heavily on the ground and shot up. While he was in midair, he roared angrily. At the same time, the hammer in his hand smashed towards Yi Qinghan furiously. Swish! Yi Qinghan's divine senses had already locked onto the dwarf warrior. When the dwarf warrior swung his hammer, Yi Qinghan immediately stopped. His footsteps, which were originally moving towards the left, suddenly changed direction. At the same time, he stopped releasing his soul chaos. Instead, he slashed his saber at a divine general martial artist next to him. With the help of the intense energy explosion, Yi Qinghan's body bounced back and shot towards the right. Boom! The giant hammer swelled with the wind and smashed into the crowd. 2 low-level divine generals and several celestial gods were smashed into pieces, and a deep crater was formed on the ground. The dwarf warrior ignored the smashed warriors on the ground. He opened his palm and grabbed the air, retrieving his hammer. Divine power radiated from his body as he prepared to continue smashing towards Yi Qinghan. Boss, stop smashing. Let's go after him. A divine general dressed in fiery red armor panicked. If this continued, Yi Qinghan would still be alive. Most of the people on his side would probably be smashed to death. He quickly waved his hand at a few high-level divine generals in the distance and rushed towards Yi Qinghan. Thunder protection. The battle here was extremely intense, but the situation on Niu Potion's side was extremely strange. As countless red-armored warriors charged towards Niu Yanhua, her body suddenly lit up with a white light. This light was like a scorching sun that enveloped everyone in the firework tribe. No one on the outside could see what was going on inside. Then, a white shield quietly formed. The red-armored divine general's attacks all landed on the shield. It was as if they had smashed into a quagmire. There was not the slightest ripple. Thunder protection? It must be the Thunder God's protection. This little girl is not from the Thunder tribe. She is from the Thunder God tribe of the 10 ancient god tribes. Ha! Attack that shield with all your might. I want to see how long she can last. As long as I can get her, I will reward you handsomely. The strange phenomenon immediately attracted the dwarf's attention. When he saw the shield that was like a scorching sun that no one dared to look at, his eyes lit up with ecstasy. He no longer went after Yi Qinghan. Instead, he used the small hammer in his hand and smashed it hard at the shield. Ha! Silver spear dance. Wind dragon dominates the world. Inside the white shield, several silver spears suddenly flew out. Countless energy waves covered the sky and covered the earth. They followed the spears and attacked fiercely in one direction. At the same time, the white shield also moved quickly. Wherever the spearheads swept past, cracks would appear in space, making it seem as if the spears were faintly discernible in the air. It was extremely strange. At the same time, the spearheads gave off a heart-shaking aura, and they were as fast as lightning. Out of the dozens of martial artists in front of him, only 2 experts in red armor were sent flying. The rest of the low-level martial artists were smashed into pieces by the spear and the various energy waves behind it, instantly disappearing from the world. As soon as the gnome leader saw him shout, a sudden change occurred. In an instant, dozens of his subordinates died. He could not help but smash the small hammer in his hand even more crazily. His face became extremely ferocious. He shouted in a deep voice that sounded like the beating of a drum, "Everyone be careful. Their silver spears have doubled their attack power under the Thunder God's protection. Spread out and attack from afar. This little girl has not grown up yet. She will not be able to hold on for long. As long as the Thunder God's protection is broken, they will all die. Kill her. Run." Looking at the white shield and the silver spears pressing down on the crowd, they listened to the leader's angry roar. Many low-level martial artists panicked and scattered in all directions. As they retreated, they released energy attacks at the white shield. However, as they fled in panic, they did not notice that there was a terrifying warrior behind them. He was currently moving through the crowd and rushing towards them. A man who was breathing black fog like a devil was rushing towards the densely packed crowd. Behind him was a group of god generals in red armor. They roared angrily as they chased after him. Yi Qinghan did not bother fighting with the few peak god general experts behind him. After breaking through to the god general realm, with his dense divine power, the power of his absolute domain had increased tremendously. Every time the peak god general experts attacked his absolute domain, he would make use of the powerful force to increase his speed and bounce back towards the group of low-level warriors. Then, he would release his body fusion battle technique and kill a group of low-level warriors. Kill, kill, kill. Those who block me will die. The frenzied massacre had caused Yi Qinghan's eyes to turn bloodshot. After the slaughter god blade absorbed the souls of close to 100 low-level martial artists, the black glow on the blade grew brighter and brighter. The more souls the slaughter god blade absorbed, the more negative emotions it had for Yi Qinghan. The bloodlust in its heart was also getting stronger. Right now, it had almost entered a half-crazed state. His heart was filled with the desire to kill all his enemies and turn them into mincemeat. "Boss, wake up! If this goes on, you will go crazy. You will become a madman who only knows how to kill." Xiaohe was very clear about Yi Qinghan's current state. He was very worried as he sent a voice transmission to Yi Qinghan. "Crazy? Ha! In this situation, if I don't go crazy, I will die. If they want to kill me, I will kill all of them. Ha! Let's die together. Who dares to block me?" After hearing Xiaohe's voice transmission, Yi Qinghan's eyes became even redder. His speed increased again, and the slaughter god blade in his hand shone brightly. Without any hesitation, he continued to slash at the warriors around him. Chapter 5:28. Chaotic, very chaotic. The situation in the field was a mess. For peak god generals were chasing Yi Qinghan, but Yi Qinghan didn't fight them head-on. Instead, he chased after the weaker martial artists. Niu Huiwa desperately used the Thunder God protection to block everyone's attacks. Niu Patian and the others used the Thunder God protection to chase after all the mid to low-level masters. The gnome leader and a group of masters chased after the Thunder God protection from behind and smashed it. The most pitiful ones here were the heavenly gods and the low-level divine generals. It looked like the Firewar tribe had the upper hand. More than half of the hundreds of martial artists brought by the dwarf chief had been killed. But Yi Qinghan and Niu Patian knew very well that if this went on, they would all die. The ones they killed were all relatively low-level warriors, and there weren't many casualties among the 50 or so warriors in red armor. They were all level 3 heavenly gods, and there were 7 or 8 peak god generals. Once Yi Qinghan expended too much god power, Niu Huahua couldn't hold on any longer, and the lightning god protection would be broken. They would be torn to shreds by the enraged enemies, but what else could they do besides killing each other? Niu Padian was only a level 3 god general. Niu Zhantian and the rest were even weaker. Some were level 2 god generals, while others were level 1 god generals. As for Yi Yaorao and the rest, they were pitifully weak. Once the lightning god protection was broken, they would be killed instantly. Escape? Where could they escape to with their speed? SSSSSS. As time passed, demons and demons began to appear in the surroundings, attracted by the battle here. The scene became even more chaotic, and it was a complete mess. Damn it, if this continues, we will be finished sooner or later. Although Yi Qinghan couldn't suppress the killing intent in his heart, he didn't try to do so, but he still maintained a trace of clarity. The situation was getting more and more serious. His god power had been greatly depleted. The white barrier around Niu Huahua was also getting thinner and thinner. He could vaguely see the figure inside. It wasn't that he hadn't thought of running away, but the 4 peak god generals were chasing him relentlessly. If it weren't for his disorienting step and absolute domain, he would have long since died. His blood-red eyes turned rapidly. He decided to take a gamble. As he ran, he began to quietly rush towards the group of cultivators who were blocking the evil demons and demons. He had to think of a way to kill the 4 peak divine generals behind him. Otherwise, this would be a hopeless situation. When the cultivators blocking the demons and demons in the distance saw Yi Qinghan rushing over with a sharp, cold wind, they ignored the demons and demons in front of them and fled in panic. The more than 100 corpses on the ground proved that if this humanoid demon got close, only death awaited them. After Yi Qinghan casually killed a few warriors who were too slow, he didn't stop and rushed into the demon dweller army, looking like he was escaping wildly. As expected, the 4 peak heavenly gods were anxious. Yi Qinghan had killed so many of them. If they let him escape, given their boss's explosive temper, he would definitely tear them apart. 2 of them suddenly sped up, sending the demon dwellers in front of them flying. They circled around and directly passed by Yi Qinghan, rushing in front of him to intercept him. The 4 of them formed an encirclement, trapping Yi Qinghan in the center. SSSSSS. The roars of the demons at the side did not cause the 5 to panic. The 5 of them swung their weapons, and the demons that they struck were immediately reduced to dust. At their level, the demons could be easily killed. Swish! The 3 of them surrounded Zhang Yi, and one of them made his move. The flexible sword in his hand spat out a red sword light. It was like a venomous snake's tongue dancing in the air. Wherever the flexible sword swept past, the space became blurry. Just in time, Yi Qinghan's eyes turned red, and a red light flashed. He stomped on the ground, causing the ground to shake. His body rushed towards the martial artist. The slaughter god's saber spat out a green saber wave as it slashed at the flexible sword. Boom! Just as the 4 immortal generals had imagined, Yi Qinghan borrowed the recoil from the collision of the green saber radiance and the red sword radiance to abruptly change direction. His speed soared as he prepared to dash towards the middle of the 2 people behind him to escape. This was what he did in the past, and the 4 of them were very familiar with it. The 2 martial artists behind him carried 2 huge metal rods and smashed them down on Yi Qinghan's head. They were trying to smash him back into the encirclement. However, Yi Qinghan used a strange footwork and suddenly sped up again. He barely dodged the 2 martial artists' attacks and made use of the shockwave from their attacks to increase his speed again as he rushed out of the encirclement. As expected, helplessness flashed in the 2 martial artists' eyes. Yi Qinghan was always like this. It looked like he was going to fight them head-on, but he would suddenly change his direction and make use of their attacks to escape. Furthermore, his footwork was very strange. When he ran, he left after-images behind. His speed was so fast that they couldn't tell which was the real one and which was the fake one. He managed to escape every time. Not right. The helplessness in the eyes of the 2 cultivators suddenly changed into surprise. This was because Yi Qinghan's body turned around in midair, forcefully turning around and pouncing towards one of them. He actually wanted to fight him head-on. Good timing. This martial artist's eyes revealed a trace of ecstasy. Yi Qinghan's attack might be strange, and that purple light was also very terrifying, but it was useless against them. They were still worried that Yi Qinghan wouldn't fight them head-on. They didn't expect him to deliver himself to their doorstep. Immediately, the huge rod in his hand swayed in the air and formed afterimages as it smashed towards Yi Qinghan. Bang! This martial artist's attack speed was too fast, and Yi Qinghan didn't even have time to brandish the slaughter god blade. His body was sent flying like a meteor, and the black fog that covered his body shook and almost shattered. Swish! One of the martial artists was originally rushing over, but in the blink of an eye, he saw a black meteor crashing towards them. His body tumbled in the air, and his face was filled with panic. He couldn't help but reveal a cruel smile as he raised his huge rod and prepared to kill Yi Qinghan in an instant. He wanted to destroy the black fog barrier on his body completely. Something's not right. However, when he gathered his divine power and smashed towards Yi Qinghan, he suddenly saw Yi Qinghan's body twisting strangely. Yi Qinghan's face was no longer filled with panic. Instead, it was filled with coldness. Just as he was about to be smashed by the huge rod, Jiang Yi's body transformed into an afterimage as he twisted to the side by a small step. It was this small step that allowed him to dodge the attack. The slaughter god blade in his hand turned into a black lightning as it slashed towards the martial artist's head. This blade, the martial artist's eyes were wide open as he died instantly. He only had time to utter two mosquito-like sounds before his soul was completely sucked into the slaughter god blade. The divine crystal and interspatial ring left his body, and Yi Qinghan grabbed them with one hand and kept them in his interspatial ring. In the blink of an eye, Yi Qinghan made use of the martial artist's habitual thinking that he was going to escape again. Under his sneak attack, he made use of the slaughter god blade's perverted ability to swallow a martial artist's soul to successfully kill a peak stage god general expert. Chapter 529. This, Yi Qinghan's sudden burst of strength and succeeded in killing the first divine general instantly sent a chill down their spines. They had always thought that although Yi Qinghan's strength was strange, and he could kill a group of low-level warriors in seconds, he didn't have the ability to kill a peak divine general. Now, this bloody incident proved that he had the ability, and it was far beyond their imagination. Because Yi Qinghan had killed the peak divine general instantly. Killing and instantly killing were two different concepts. Swish! Yi Qinghan stowed away the peak divine general's divine crystal and space ring. Without pausing at all, he stomped heavily on the ground and charged towards the two peak divine generals who were staring blankly at him from within the crowd of demons. What was going on? The eyes of the two peak divine generals flickered. They were still thinking about how the peak divine general had been killed in seconds. Seeing Yi Qinghan dashing towards them, they instinctively waved their soft sword and giant axe. They spat out waves of air and smashed at Yi Qinghan. Bang! Yi Qinghan's body turned into a meteor and was sent flying towards the warrior who was holding the giant stick. The two warriors even felt that he didn't dodge at all. It was as though he was using their attacks to increase his speed. Oh no! That warrior was in danger. The two warriors suddenly came to their senses and hurriedly chased after Yi Qinghan. That warrior didn't know what Yi Qinghan was trying to do. He was still doubting Yi Qinghan's strength. How could he be so powerful all of a sudden? If he could kill a peak divine general instantly, what was the point of fighting? Wouldn't it be better if he killed all of them instantly? Therefore, when he saw Yi Qinghan flying towards him like a meteor, he didn't dodge to the side. Instead, he released his divine power. The giant stick in his hand spat out black gas and released waves of horrifying waves. He smashed it towards Yi Qinghan. Bang! The absolute domain around Yi Qinghan's body finally couldn't withstand the continuous attacks. At this moment, it instantly collapsed, and the giant gray rod continued to smash heavily towards his body. However, his body didn't stop at all. He didn't have any intention of dodging. His blood-red eyes locked onto the head on the martial artist's body. The slaughter god's saber in his hand slashed across the sky. He was actually risking his life to kill the martial artist. Ha! If you want this young master to die, then this young master will let you die first. The bloodlust in Yi Qinghan's mind grew stronger and stronger. His mind was filled with the thought of tearing the enemy in front of him into pieces. He did not care whether his body was injured or not. Bang! Bang! Two sounds rang out at the same time. One was the sound of the giant stick smashing into Yi Qinghan's body, the sound of bones breaking. There was also the dull sound of the slaughter god blade striking the peak stage god general martial artist's head. As these two sounds rang out, Yi Qinghan's body was directly smashed to the ground. His left shoulder was a bloody mess, and his left hand hung limply. It was obvious that half of his body had been crippled. However, the peak stage god general martial artist's eyes were blank as his body fell from the sky weakly. A green divine crystal and a gray interspatial ring floated in the air. It was obvious that he had died in the exchange just now. Swish! Ah, come on, let's die together. Yi Qinghan's body had just landed on the ground when he bounced up again. Half of his body was a bloody mess, and one of his hands was completely crippled. However, there was no sign of pain on his face. Instead, he laughed maniacally. His eyes were bloodshot, and the strange slaughter god blade in his right hand turned into a series of afterimages. He revealed a mouth full of bloody teeth as he charged towards the remaining two peak stage god general martial artists. Lunatic! He's a lunatic! Yi Qinghan killed them crazily. The moment they exchanged blows, he killed them instantly. His ferocious expression, in particular, made the two peak stage god general martial artists' hearts turn cold. They were not afraid of death, but this was the first time they had encountered such a battle. Although they were peak stage god general martial artists, they were still humans. Humans naturally had thoughts and would be afraid. Thus, the two of them hesitated for a moment before they stopped moving. Then they turned around and started to escape. Kill! 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 Those who block me shall die. The slaughter god blade continuously swallowed the souls of two peak stage god general martial artists. Just now, it had swallowed the souls of more than 100 martial artists. Furthermore, the battlefield was filled with corpses and blood. This caused Yi Qinghan to go crazy. This was such a good opportunity, but he did not run away. Instead, he turned around and started to chase after the two peak stage god general martial artists. His originally delicate face had become extremely hideous. He bared his teeth in pain, and his entire body was covered in blood. He exuded a terrifying aura as if he had become a real demon in human form. Lunatic! He's a lunatic! Demon! This is a demon in human form. Run! Don't go near him. If you go near him, you will be demonized and die immediately. The situation in the battlefield became even more chaotic. Yi Qinghan was like a lunatic. His body turned into a series of afterimages as he dashed around the battlefield crazily. He slashed and killed anyone he saw. As for the two peak stage god general martial artists, they did not dare to fight with Yi Qinghan head-on. Instead, they started to run away in fear. Since the two peak stage god general martial artists were escaping, they were naturally not a match for Yi Qinghan. Wherever Yi Qinghan went, the martial artists were either killed or ran away in fear. And this situation finally attracted the attention of the dwarf, Neopatian, and the rest. The dwarf shouted angrily as he turned around and stopped attacking. Seeing that the thunder god protection was about to be broken, he turned around and rushed towards Yi Qinghan. Big brother Yi, Lord Yi, little brother Yi. The people of the firework tribe looked at Yi Qinghan, who was covered in blood and whose eyes were bloodshot. He was charging in and out of the enemy martial artists. No one dared to fight him head-on. There was not a trace of happiness or excitement. Instead, their hearts surged with the desolation of a hero at the end of his road. It was as if they had seen an invincible general surrounded by tens of thousands of soldiers. Although he had the courage of tens of thousands of men, there were too many bandits. Even if he wanted to kill the enemy, he was powerless. A hero was waving the weapon in his hand as he walked towards the end of his road, towards his final destination. I'm sorry, big brother Yi. It's all because of me. I've harmed everyone. I'm a jinx, a source of calamity. Burn! With my blood, bestow upon me the madness of the ancient gods. Niu Huayan's originally pale face suddenly turned red. Her small body trembled and her delicate lips opened abruptly. She spat out a mouthful of blood, and the light emitted from her body suddenly intensified. The thunder god protection, which was about to be broken, suddenly shone brightly and became even more vigorous. Ah, young mistress, silver spear dance, kill him. Niu Patian saw Niu Huayan spit out a mouthful of blood. Her frail body was whiter than snow, and she was trembling uncontrollably. Niu Patian looked up to the sky and roared. The silver spear in his hand shone brightly and shot out from his hand, piercing towards a peak divine general martial artist who was attacking fiercely outside the barrier. Kill, kill. If you want us to die, we'll let you die first. Niu Patian and the others also trembled and roared angrily. Divine power surged from their bodies, and the spears in their hands sliced through the air and became illusory. They flew towards the peak divine general martial artists outside the barrier and attacked furiously. I was wrong. You're a good man. You're a hero. You please don't die. Yi Yaorao didn't care about the thunder god protection that suddenly shone brightly. She also didn't care about Niu Patian and the others' roars. In fact, she even stopped attacking with the silver sword in her hand. She stared at Yi Qinghan, who was covered in blood and injuries, but was still roaring angrily and killing his enemies. However, in the next second, her cold eyes suddenly became moist. Her face, which had been expressionless all this while, suddenly became extremely frightened and heartbroken. The dwarf powerhouse rushed over angrily. The metal hammer in his hand did not grow bigger this time, but its speed increased by several times. It sliced through the air and carried with it a destructive aura as it smashed towards Yi Qinghan's back. However, Yi Qinghan didn't seem to notice it at all. He continued to brandish the slaughter god blade in his hand and continued to kill the other two martial artists. Bang! Yi Qinghan's body flew high into the air. Blood and flesh flew everywhere on his back, revealing his white bones. He was like a kite with a broken string as he was sent flying. In front of him was a demonic aura that was sucking in and out nonstop like the mouth of a huge beast. No, when Yi Qinghan's lifeless body was completely submerged in the surging demonic aura, Niu Patian and Yi Yaorao screamed in their hearts. 2 drops of sweat rolled down their cheeks as their beautiful eyes were filled with endless loneliness and despair. For Yi Qinghan, for themselves, and for everyone else who was about to die. Chapter 530. Did he die just like that? Bing Shui and Bing Yu looked at each other and blinked. Their eyes were filled with uncertainty. That brave and powerful man died just like that? The mysterious man had disappeared just like that? That seemingly invincible man who could always save everyone in the most dangerous time didn't create any miracle this time. He didn't perform any epic legend. The most terrifying thing about an evil demon wasn't his body, but his demonic aura. Anyone who was enveloped by his demonic aura would be demonized without exception. And Yi Qinghan's body was completely submerged in that tumbling demonic aura. How could he not be demonized and not die? At this moment, the two of them suddenly felt a sense of desolation in their hearts. It was not only because they had lost a strong backer. Perhaps the two of them had inadvertently developed some kind of feelings for this somewhat lecherous man. Or perhaps it was because the fox grieved for the rabbit's death and felt a trace of sorrow for their fate. For a god-level warrior, appearance was no longer important. A woman's charm and attractiveness depended on her temperament. It was the quality that came from the depths of her heart that she revealed unconsciously. It was the same for men. Yi Qinghan's evil smile was enigmatic and mysterious. His words and actions revealed firmness, friendliness, confidence, and many other unique qualities of a peerless man. Unknowingly, He had already made the women in the team feel an indescribable attraction. Usually, they didn't feel it. But now, when this handsome face was completely submerged in the boundless black fog, everyone suddenly came to their senses. They felt that they had suddenly lost something very important in the depths of their hearts. It made their hearts ache and break bit by bit. Kill. Bing Shui and Bing Yu's treasured swords emitted a dazzling light at the same time. They suddenly felt an inexplicable anger surging in their hearts. Only through crazy killing could they quell this anger. Only then could they pay tribute to their love that had just been ignited but was about to be extinguished. Their hearts that had been sealed for many years were just opened, but were forced to close again. How sad was this? Kill. Yi Yao Rao quickly wiped away the tears on her face. Her body emitted a cold aura that could be seen with the naked eye. She didn't know why her heart was in such a mess. She didn't know why her body was so cold. She only knew that she wanted to kill. She wanted to exhaust every ounce of energy in her body to kill. Kill. All the heavenly god martial artists in the Firework tribe were brimming with godly power at this moment. Perhaps it was because of Niu Patian and the rest's madness. Or perhaps it was because of Niu Huahua's pale face. Or perhaps it was because of Yi Qinghan's death. Or perhaps it was because of their impending deaths. Everyone didn't hold back, pouring out every bit of divine power in their bodies, every wave of attack. The people of the Firework tribe went completely crazy. The depression brought about by the desperate situation, the madness and death of Yi Qinghan, had ignited the madness in everyone's hearts. He had no choice but to fight. If he could not win, he would perish. On this battlefield that was suffused with smoke and filled with sword qi, there was no path of retreat, and the only thing they could rely on was the weapon in their hands. If they wanted to survive, then they had to cut off all means of retreat, fight with their backs against the wall, and slaughter out a path of blood. Swish! 5 silver spears that emitted a terrifying aura flickered in and out of existence in the air. They moved as fast as lightning, and the silver spear tips flickered with lightning. They streaked across the sky and directly knocked away the weapons of the 5 god generals. Then, without slowing down, they struck the divine crystals of the 5 god generals, shattering them instantly. Their corpses fell lifelessly to the ground. Niu Huahua's Thunder God's protection increased the attacks of the 5 god generals by several times. In addition, the 5 of them attacked without holding back, and their attack power doubled. Niu Patian instantly killed a peak-stage godly general, while the other godly generals killed a level 3 godly general martialist. Bang! Boom! The heavenly god martial artists of the Firework tribe each found a target and attacked with all their might. With lightning speed, they killed dozens of martial artists. At this moment, the attack power of the Firework tribe increased greatly, and they were unstoppable. Wherever the spear chi waves passed, corpses flew, and blood splattered. Spread out, spread out. Long-range attacks, don't let them get close. Their attacks can't last long. The dwarf powerhouse had just sent Yi Qinghan flying, but when he turned his head, he saw that his subordinates were being slaughtered by Niu Patian and the others, whose attack power had increased exponentially. He couldn't help but roar in rage. The small hammer in his hand whizzed out again and smashed down on the white barrier. At the same time, the remaining 4 or 5 peak heavenly god martial artists also came to their senses and released energy waves that poured down on the white barrier. The scene became chaotic once again. The people of the Firework tribe began to pursue their enemies under the Thunder God's protection. On the other hand, the dwarf powerhouse's side began to release the divine power in their bodies toward the barrier as they fled. The situation became a stalemate. Niu Patian and the others killed with all their might, hoping to carve out a path of blood. The dwarf powerhouse attacked furiously, hoping to completely shatter the Thunder God's protection and kill everyone inside. Then, he would be able to capture the pale girl. The hatred between the two sides could no longer be resolved. Only blood and corpses could appease the anger in their hearts. "Boss, wake up! Boss, wake up! I'm begging you, please wake up!" A cry with a sobbing tone resounded continuously in Yi Qinghan's heart. In a daze, He felt as though his entire body was being torn apart. He wanted to open his eyes, but he couldn't. He had no strength left in his body. He felt like he was sprawled on the ground. The cold gravel on the ground made his face hurt, and his heart was filled with a violent bloodlust. If it weren't for the fact that he couldn't move, he would definitely crawl up and continue to look for people to kill. I'm not dead. I'm still alive. He felt the white airflow from the soul ring rapidly, healing his injuries. He felt the bloodlust in his mind slowly dissipate as the white airflow circulated over and over again. His mind became clearer and clearer. He began to recall what had happened and began to release his divine sense to sense the situation around him. However, his divine sense radiated outwards, and the feedback he received set off a storm in his heart. Even the bloodlust in his heart was drowned by this feeling of fear. He realized that he was sprawled on the cold ground, surrounded by black fog. This black fog was so cold that even his divine sense could feel his heart palpitating. At this moment, the slaughter god blade in his hand emitted a weak glow that enveloped him completely, preventing the black fog from attacking him. What shocked him was that the slaughter god blade seemed to be absorbing the black fog. As the black fog was absorbed by the slaughter god blade, the light from the slaughter god blade gradually increased. It was obvious that he was surrounded by a demonic aura, but why was the slaughter god blade actually absorbing the demonic aura? This wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was that Yi Ching Han realized that there was a black figure standing not far away from him. Its body was covered in black scales, and its eyes were bloodshot. The two demonic horns on its head shone with a black light. This was definitely a demon. However, why wasn't it attacking him? Instead, it was looking at the slaughter god blade in fear. Furthermore, its body was trembling slightly. There was something wrong with this blade. Of course, this was nonsense. It should be said that there was something wrong with this blade. This thought instantly appeared in Yi Qinghan's mind. Being able to devour the souls of demonic beasts, devouring the souls of martial artists, causing one to develop a bloodlust and evil fire, easily killing demons and demons, and now, even being able to devour the aura of demons, even able to cause fear from the depths of one's heart to arise from one's intellect. How could this blade not have a big problem? Chapter 531. I don't care if you're a holy blade or a demonic blade. All I know is that you can help me kill my enemies and save my life. You are a good blade. So be it. Being a mad demon is better than being dead. Yi Qinghan didn't think too much about it. He only knew that this blade could help him survive. This blade had a terrifying power that could help him kill his enemies. That was enough. His body slowly recovered under the healing of the soul ring. He struggled to sit up, but it aggravated the injuries on his back and left hand, causing him to grimace in pain. After spending a lot of effort, he finally activated the divine power in the God Crystal and started to heal his injuries. The battle outside was still fierce. He had to heal his injuries as soon as possible and think of a way to save Neopatian and the rest. It wasn't that he wanted to be a hero, but Neopatian was the team leader and the points were with him. Without Neopatian, even if he accumulated enough points, he wouldn't know how to leave the baleful Een stream. Also, there were a few people in the team that he couldn't let go of. Of course, it was just a few people. However, when Yi Qinghan closed his eyes to heal his injuries, there was a change in the surroundings without him knowing. A few demons nearby quickly came over. However, after they came over, they were just like the original demon. They stood at a distance and trembled as they stared at the slaughter god blade. This was a very strange and contradictory phenomenon. The demons were attracted over, but they didn't dare to come closer. Also, there were more demons coming over from afar. It was as if there was a strange magnetic force that attracted them over. The slaughter god blade's light became brighter and brighter, and the speed at which it absorbed the black fog also increased. At this speed, the demonic aura on these demons would be completely absorbed in a short period of time. Of course, the demonic phenomenon attracted the attention of everyone present. All the abyssals in the field gave up on attacking them and instead gathered in one place. The abyssal aura in that place had become incomparably dense. A monstrous black fog rolled up, and an incomparably cold and evil aura was released from the black fog, causing the martial artists who were blocking the abyssals to feel a kind of inexplicable fear that came from the depths of their souls. What were these demons trying to do? In the past, there had never been a case of demons running and gathering together. Could it be that the demons were mutating and merging together to become the Demon King? As more and more demons gathered together, the surging demonic aura grew stronger and stronger, and the invisible pressure also grew stronger. Many of the martial artists present began to panic, and some even had thoughts of fleeing. If anyone dares to run, I'll kill him. Everyone, attack the Thunder God's protection. As long as you break through, I will reward each of you with 1,000,000 parangons. 10,000,000 parangons for killing a god general, and 100,000,000 parangons for capturing that little girl. Kill them. The demon's drastic change also caused the dwarf to feel a trace of fear. However, this trace of fear was suppressed in an instant. Right now, the arrow was knocked on the bowstring and had to be released. The hundreds of subordinates that he had painstakingly gathered over countless years were mostly dead. If he still couldn't take down Niu Yaohua, then it would be a huge loss. There will always be brave men with great rewards. The pressure that the dwarf had accumulated over the years with his tyrannical methods finally took effect at this moment. All the martial artists no longer paid attention to the mutated demon. Instead, they began to pour their divine power into the rapidly moving white barrier. The battle on the battlefield had officially entered a white-hot phase. Both sides had gone berserk, and their eyes were bloodshot. If you die, then I die. Niu Yaohua risked her life and did not hesitate to burn her life force to make the Thunder God's protection incomparably strong. However, although the barrier was strong, the dwarf's attacks were even more ferocious. Every time he swung his small hammer, it would instantly grow larger, smashing heavily on the barrier, causing the barrier to shake and the white light to weaken. Although the attacks of Neopatian and the others had become incomparably terrifying under the support of the Thunder God's protection, the speed of the Thunder God's protection was still far inferior to the speed of a peak god general. At first, their spears could still kill some high-level god general powerhouses, but later on, they could only kill some heavenly god martial artists who were slower. Up until now, they had missed every time. The enemy martial artists did not give them a chance to get close at all. Once they got close, they would immediately flee. Although they had extremely strong defenses and attacks, they could only run around powerlessly like headless flies. Is it going to end? Father, Yaohua is useless. The prestige of the Thunder God clan has been ruined by Yaohua. But don't worry, even if Yaohua dies, I won't let these beasts have their way. Do they really think that the Thunder God clan does not dare to mutilate themselves just because they have so few people? Looks like Yaohua is going to go against the teachings of our ancestors today. Ancestor God above, Yaohua, an unfilial disciple, is guilty. Yaohua would rather die than be sullied by others. Niu Yaohua's large, watery eyes were no longer as lively as they used to be. Her snow-white face was slowly turning red, a sickly red. Miss, you can't do anything stupid. You can't. If you dare mutilate yourself, your soul will forever fall into the 9 netherworld realm and suffer for billions of years. The curse of the 10 ancient god clans is no joke. Bear with it for now, in exchange for a chance to live. In the future, you can avenge us and yourself. Neopatian saw Niu Yaohua's sickly red face and wriggled his lips as he transmitted his voice. However, as he spoke, he saw the determination in Niu Yaohua's eyes and knew that no matter how much he tried to persuade her, it would be useless. He, Song Xiao, had watched Niu Yaohua grow up and understood her personality very well. Once she had decided on something, even 100 bulls could not change her mind. Women in the god realm did not actually care much about their chastity. This was because most women in the god realm could become gods. Over the long years, they would usually have relations with countless men. Some women, such as Cleopatra, would even have relations with hundreds or even tens of thousands of men at the same time. Some were simply not interested in men and only liked women. Some didn't care about it at all and didn't like it at all. It was common to see old virgins who were tens of thousands of years old. That was why the experts of the Wa clan and this midget would attack them without restraint. They would kill them until they were completely, bitterly disappointed and completely defeated. The experts of the Wa clan might still have some misgivings about forcing Nyo Yaohua to submit with their powerful martial strength. They were prepared to capture Nyo Patian and the others to force Nyo Yaohua to submit. However, the midget warrior's thoughts were completely different. He believed that a little girl would never have the courage to harm herself before she grew up. Furthermore, she was a woman of the Thunder God clan, so she would never dare to harm herself. This was because there were very few descendants of the 10 ancient god clans. In order to continue the clan, they would be cursed at birth. However, he didn't know what Nyo Yaohua had gone through, but Nyo Patian knew very well what kind of hardships this little girl had gone through in the past 10 years. Her mentality had already far surpassed her age. A few years ago, when she was not even 10 years old, she had learned to disguise herself as a spoiled little witch. Under her pure appearance, there was an incomparably exquisite heart. Moreover, what gave Nyo Patian a headache was that Nyo Yaohua was like a woman from the material plane. She valued a woman's chastity very much, even at the cost of violating the ancestral teachings and triggering the curse of the 10 ancient god clans to protect that drop of blood of hers, even though that drop of blood of hers had miraculous effects. Chapter 532. Go to hell. Go to hell. Looking at the shield above their heads getting thinner and thinner, looking at the enemies sneering in all directions, and feeling the aura of death getting closer, some of the warriors of the firework tribe finally could not stand the feeling of being slowly boiled in oil and waiting for death. Some of them started to break down. They actually braved the storm of attacks and rushed out towards the enemies in the distance. They braved the raging flames and prepared to perish together with the enemies. Since they were going to die sooner or later, they might as well die. Bing Shui and Bing Yu looked at each other and smiled at the same time. Their smiles were beautiful, but also sad. The two of them also prepared to rush out. The tree that they wanted to rely on the most had already fallen, and Nyo Potion's tree seemed to be about to fall as well. Rather than being tortured to death, it was better to die now and learn from that man's heroic death. Bing Yu, Bing Shui, wait. Everyone wait. Just as Bing Shui, Bing Yu, and a few others were about to rush out and perish together with one or two enemies, two voices rang out at the same time. The voices were filled with disbelief, anticipation, and disbelief. What's wrong? Bing Shui and Bing Yu stared at the two people who shouted with puzzled expressions. The ones who shouted were Yi Yaorao and Nyo Patian. However, after the two of them shouted, they stopped moving and looked to the left in a daze. Then, Nyo Patian and the others also stopped their attacks and looked to the left in a daze. Left? The two of them quickly turned their heads and looked over. Their jaws dropped in shock when they saw that everyone had stopped attacking. Nyo Yanhua also looked to the left in astonishment when she saw that everyone had stopped attacking. Her pair of watery eyes regained their liveliness and blinked. The people of the Firework tribe noticed the change on the left. Of course, the warriors outside also noticed it. At that moment, everyone involuntarily stopped attacking. Even the dwarf warrior stopped moving. His eyes brightened, and the iron hammer in his hand emitted waves of gray light. He was ready to deliver a destructive blow at any time. The source of everyone's astonishment came from the monstrous black fog on the left. Just now, a white light suddenly shone from the rolling black fog. This white light could actually penetrate the rolling black fog and radiate out. It was obvious how powerful this light was. After the white light shone, the black fog tumbled even more violently. Moreover, it was rapidly shrinking at a speed visible to the naked eye. The demon mutation is over? The Demon King was coming out? Or was a powerful existence about to come out? Sensing a suffocating aura coming from the rapidly shrinking black fog, everyone had the urge to turn around and run. This aura was too terrifying, so terrifying that it made people feel as if they couldn't resist it. Even the strongest dwarf felt that he would be crushed into pieces under this terrifying aura. However, under this formless, icy aura, everyone couldn't help but have the thought of not running away. Or perhaps they wanted to run away, but found that their bodies seemed to be out of their control. Their bodies were powerless, and they didn't even have the strength to lift their legs. They could only stare blankly at the black fog. Demon, it's a demon. The black fog quickly dissipated, and more than 10 figures slowly appeared before everyone's eyes. Their bodies were covered in black scales, and they had a pair of blood-red eyes. They also had demonic horns that emitted a black light. This was definitely a demon, but what was that black shadow they were surrounding? Why were they all trembling when they saw the black shadow in the middle? The black fog completely dissipated, and the first thing that was revealed was a blade that emitted a white light. A long black blade that was several meters long was stabbed into the ground at an angle. The remaining black fog nearby was flocking towards this blade, and the aura that made everyone feel suffocated and tremble was emitted by this blade. Moreover, the reason why the nearby demons were trembling was also because of this blade, because their blood-red eyes were all staring at this blade in horror. There was something wrong with this blade, and there was a big problem. They recognized this blade, and the people from the Firework tribe were even more familiar with it. But wasn't this blade originally emitting a black light? Why was it emitting a white light now? And why was its aura so terrifying? Why was it able to devour the demon's aura? And why was it able to make demons fear it? Most importantly, why was this blade able to produce a soul-stirring magic that caused people to involuntarily lock their gazes on it, unable to move their eyes away? Just as everyone stared blankly at this blade, and many questions arose in their minds, suddenly a hand appeared in front of them. It was a pale, slender hand. This hand reached out very quickly, but it gave off a feeling that it was incomparably slow. When the hand grasped the hilt of the saber and pulled the strange saber out, the crowd was astonished once again. This blade flashed with a white light, but it also emitted a dazzling black light. The white and black light intertwined, and it was extremely unnatural. It made everyone feel that it was very abrupt and awkward. Hand. The first to react was actually Nyo Huaihua. She forcefully shifted her gaze away from the slaughter god blade and fixed it on that pale, slender hand. Then, following this hand, she started to look upwards. Then, she saw a back view. It was a back view that was unfamiliar, yet familiar at the same time. At this moment, she suddenly felt an indescribable sadness in her heart. She had the urge to cry silently. It's him! It's him! When the black fog started to change, Yi Yaorao had been keeping an eye on the situation over here. This was because the black fog was surging towards the place where Yi Qinghan had fallen into it. When Yi Qinghan fell into the black fog, that place had mysteriously changed. Hence, she had always had an indescribable feeling in her heart. Now, this feeling was finally right. Looking at the back view that was covered in blood and the figure that was standing there quietly, her soul started to tremble slightly. He's not dead. In the next moment, everyone was startled awake. This was because the figure had started to turn his head slowly, revealing a delicate yet pale face. It was a face that everyone present was extremely familiar with, yet also unfamiliar at the same time. It was a face that should have been dead for a long time. It was Yi Qinghan's face. There was nothing wrong with his face. But why were his eyes blood-red? Lord! Brother Yi! Niu Patian and the people from the Firework tribe cried out at the same time. Bing Shui and Bing Yu, on the other hand, were stunned. They wanted to run towards Yi Qinghan, but they were stopped by Yi Yaorao. Run! When the dwarf saw Yi Qinghan's face clearly, there was only one thought in his mind. Run. Run far away from this person, far away from this blade. This thought came out of nowhere, and it was inexplicable. However, it was very certain. Run. The remaining dozens of martialists also had the same thought. Although they didn't know why they were so afraid of Yi Qinghan, or why they couldn't even think of fighting him, they just wanted to escape. They wanted to escape as far as possible. SSSS. The corner of Yi Qinghan's mouth suddenly curled up into a sinister smile. His eyes flashed red as he raised his hand and lightly waved his blade. The moment he waved the slaughter god blade, the black light on the blade grew brighter. A terrifying aura that was 10 times colder and more evil than the demonic aura instantly enveloped everyone who was frantically trying to escape. Everyone's running speed suddenly slowed down as though they had fallen into a quagmire. After that, countless evil thoughts surged into their minds. At the same time, the slaughter god blade actually started to emit a black fog. This black fog was exactly the same as the demonic aura, and it quietly and rapidly spread towards everyone. Chapter 5:33. Hatred, fear, bloodlust, despair, and pain. At this moment, all sorts of negative emotions rose in everyone's mind. They felt as if countless vengeful spirits were tearing their souls apart. Countless vengeful spirits were crying and screaming in their ears as they devoured their flesh and blood. Instantly, everyone started rolling in pain in the air and on the ground. A few weaker martial artists even started bleeding from their 7 apertures. Then, everyone was quietly engulfed by the black fog. They looked at the martial artists who were rolling in pain in the air and on the ground. They looked at the surging black fog coming from the slaughter god blade. They looked at the sky that suddenly turned black. They heard the agonizing screams coming from the black fog and felt the terrifying aura coming from it. Everyone in the fireworks tribe was silent. Or rather, they were stunned. They didn't even know that the lightning god's protection above their heads had suddenly disappeared. They didn't even know that Niu Huaihua's small body had started to go limp on the ground. Lord has really turned into a human-shaped demon. Bing Shuai licked her lips and realized that her delicate lips had unknowingly become extremely dry and bitter. It wasn't just her. Bing Yu, Yi Yaorao, Niu Patian, and everyone else had the same thought. As Yi Qinghan had turned his head just now, they didn't notice it. Now, they realized that his delicate face and eyes were completely red, the exact same red as a demon's. Also, that strange slaughter god blade, the demonic aura that the slaughter god blade exuded, and the negative emotions that could cause a martial artist to descend into madness. Everything pointed to a strange change in Yi Qinghan. He had already become different from ordinary humans. Or rather, he had turned into a human-shaped demon. Although he was extremely powerful, he was like a demon god, so powerful that it made people's hearts palpitate. At this moment, some people began to have the thought of escaping, even though half a day ago, that delicate and pretty man was the backer they could rely on. Although this man had saved their lives before, no one could guarantee that he wouldn't turn around and slash at them, causing them to roll on the ground and bleed from their orifices. Even Niu Patian, Niu Zhantian, and the rest felt the same way. They weren't sure if Yi Qinghan had been demonized or if he had turned into a human-shaped demon. They only felt that it was extremely dangerous. However, when Niu Patian carried Niu Yaohua on his back and everyone was about to escape, that evil, ice-cold aura suddenly surged out from the rolling black fog in front of them, causing everyone's body to stiffen. Everyone felt that as long as they ran away, they would definitely be killed in an instant. Hiss hiss. The black fog slowly dissipated, revealing a scene of Azura purgatory. Dozens of experts, including 4 or 5 peak divine generals, including the incomparably powerful dwarf expert, were all lying on the ground. Their faces were ferocious, and their 7 orifices were bleeding. Their faces and eyes were filled with terror. Their bodies were in a mess, covered in bloodstains and wounds. All of them lay motionless on the ground, as if they had all died a long time ago. The only one who was still standing was Yi Qinghan. His back was facing everyone, and his robes were tattered. His left hand was a mess, and he was holding onto a slaughter god blade. He stood there quietly, like a demon god. He did not release any aura, but it was enough to make people shiver. Suddenly, his body started to tremble slightly as he stabbed the blade into the ground. Holding onto the blade, he knelt down on one knee, He started to pant rapidly, and as he panted, his body moved up and down. After that, he let out a beast-like roar. It wasn't loud, but it resonated in everyone's heart. It was like the footsteps of that Xiongqi beast. Every time it roared, everyone felt as if their hearts were going to jump out of their chests. Everyone looked at Yi Qinghan, who was kneeling on one knee like an injured beast. They didn't dare to breathe loudly. They were very clear that the current Yi Qinghan was extremely terrifying and powerful. If he really became a demon in human form, everyone would have to die. Just like the dwarf, they would die a cruel death. At this moment, they were enveloped by this ice-cold and evil aura, but they still couldn't move. They could only look at Yi Qinghan and wait for the final result. Lord Yi, suddenly, a cold female voice rang out. The voice was very cold, but it was filled with endless emotions. It was as if she wanted to use these endless emotions to awaken Yi Qinghan's demonized heart. Yi Yaorao forcefully suppressed the fear in her heart and shouted those 3 words. It was as if she had used all the strength in her body. After shouting those 3 words, she felt the pressure on her lesson. Her heart was no longer as frightened and cold. If it wasn't for him, she would have died long ago. Even if she didn't want him, she would still die. Since she was going to die anyway, she might as well die in his hands. Because she was fearless, she was extremely powerful. After shouting those 3 words, Yi Yaorao's heart instantly calmed down. She began to try to walk in the direction of Yi Qinghan. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. Lord Yi, Lord Yi, Lord Yi. With every step Yi Yaorao took, she used all the strength in her body to shout. The more she shouted, the louder her voice became. It was no longer as cold as before. Instead, it was filled with endless tenderness and emotions. As she shouted, Yi Qinghan's body trembled even more violently. It was as if he would jump up in the next second and devour everyone present. They watched as Yi Yaorao walked forward step by step, but Yi Qinghan didn't do anything. Instead, everyone felt the cold aura that enveloped their bodies gradually weaken. They could slowly move their bodies. Everyone's hearts slowly warmed up. It seemed like Yi Qinghan hadn't been completely demonized. It seemed like he still had a trace of his human consciousness. Stop! Stop! At this time, a hoarse and trembling voice rang out. The voice was very familiar, but also very strange. It seemed to be extremely suppressed, as if it was struggling, and also like an injured beast roaring. Yi Yaorao's footsteps stopped. Her beautiful eyes lit up as she looked at the panting body kneeling on the ground with extreme joy. He could still speak. He hadn't become a demon. He was still a human. Everyone's eyes lit up at the same time. As long as he was still a human, as long as he still had his consciousness, they could be saved. It was very likely that they wouldn't die. So Yi Qinghan could still be saved. My lord! My lord! My lord! Bing Shui and Bing Yu's eyes were filled with tears. Seeing Yi Qinghan's trembling body and hearing his hoarse and painful voice, the 2 of them felt a burst of pain in their hearts. The 2 of them knelt down helplessly and stared at the distant figure in a daze as they cried out incessantly. Go! Go! All of you go! If you don't go, I will kill you! Go! Go! Hearing Bing Shui and Bing Yu's cries, Yi Qinghan's body trembled even more violently. He turned his head slightly to the side, revealing half of his pale and twisted face. His hoarse and painful voice continued to ring out. His body trembled with every word he said. It was as if he was suppressing his body. At the same time, his body began to release waves of cold and evil aura. It seemed like he wouldn't be able to suppress it any longer. I won't go. I won't go. I'll die with you. Yi Yaorao felt the terrifying aura again. However, there was no panic on her face. Instead, she smiled. It was a very bright smile. There was no coldness on her face. Instead, there was a warmth like the spring wind. She began to lift her jade-like legs with difficulty and walked resolutely towards Yi Qinghan. The sound of Yi Yaorao's footsteps rang out one after another. Yi Qinghan's body could no longer suppress it. He kept trembling and growling. Suddenly, his body shot up into the sky, and he roared. Just when everyone thought he was going to kill them, he didn't even look back. He shot into the distance, leaving behind a hoarse and suppressed voice that echoed in the surroundings. Protect yourself. Wait for me to come back. Chapter 534. Wait for me to come back. Come back. That hoarse and repressed voice was still echoing in everyone's ears. However, that trembling figure streaked across the sky and floated into the distance like a wounded wolf. He left the pack of wolves without looking back and wandered alone. Then, he found a deserted place to lick his wounds and howl in solitude. This was a proud man. This was a man like a poppy flower. This was a poisonous man. Yi Yaorao could no longer control herself. Tears flowed out of her limpid eyes as she stared at the figure that was getting further and further away. She began to cry silently as her heart began to ache. She who no longer believed in men had fallen deeply in love with this poppy flower. She had fallen in love with this poisonous man. Perhaps she would be poisoned to death in the end, but she would never regret it. Zhang Tian, clean up the battlefield. The rest of you, let's go. Niu Patian let out a low roar as he soared into the sky. His spear turned into specks of starlight as he stabbed a dozen trembling abyss devils to death. Then he turned his head away so that no one could see the 2 drops of tears falling from the corners of his eyes. Then he carried Niu Hua on his back and started to run away. Men should not cry easily. Men should not cry. Men should not cry. He told himself as he ran. But why were the hot tears still flowing from the corners of his eyes? Let's go. Niu Patian led a few people to quickly clean up the battlefield. He looked in the direction that Yi Qinghan had left in and looked coldly at everyone. Then he roared and chased after Niu Patian. Big sister, let's go. He asked us to wait for him to come back. He will come back. 2 women came over and supported Yi Yaorao. They looked at the dazed Yi Yaorao and tried to persuade her. Yes, he will definitely come back. Definitely. The tears at the corners of Yi Yaorao's eyes suddenly turned into streams of cold air. Her body also began to turn icy cold. She turned around and silently followed the group. She did not say a single word, nor did she turn back to look. Let's go. Bing Shui and Bing Yu wiped their tears and looked into the distance again before chasing after them. Everyone began to run in silence. No one spoke. They all ran with all their might. No one looked back. Many of them were fast enough to catch up with Yi Qinghan, but no one chased after him. It wasn't that they were afraid of death. They believed that Yi Qinghan would never hurt them, but because Yi Qinghan's hoarse voice revealed a trace of pride and determination. Everyone chose to respect him, believe in him, and quietly wait for his return. Boss! Boss! How are you? Can you still hold on? Yi Qinghan's eyes were bloodshot. He was panting heavily while running. The muscles on his face were all twisted. He looked extremely ferocious. Xiao He and his soul were connected, so he was very clear about his current state. At this moment, his mind was filled with boundless killing intent, but it was finally released. If this went on, his soul would be completely engulfed by this killing desire, and he would finally become a real devil, a madman who only knew how to kill. Xiao He, come out. Lead the way. Find a big rock. Quick. Xiao He's voice transmission caused Yi Qinghan's eyes to reveal a trace of black light. He hurriedly summoned Xiao He, and his eyes turned bloodshot again. Boss, in front. Move forward. The moment Xiao He came out, his eyes were filled with worry and fear. He quickly scanned the area in front of him and discovered a huge rock in the distance. He hurriedly shouted to Yi Qinghan through his soul. Roar! Yi Qinghan roared like a wild beast. The veins on his face bulged, and his body trembled even more violently. He continued to run forward. After an hour, he finally reached the bottom of the huge rock. He immediately drew the Slaughter God's saber from his back and slashed at the huge rock. The Slaughter God's saber was incomparably sharp, and when it slashed at the huge rock, it was like cutting tofu. Everywhere the saber passed, rocks flew everywhere. In just a short while, a cave was dug out. Boss! Boss! What are you doing? After entering the cave, Xiaohei suddenly saw Yi Qinghan's crazy actions and shouted in panic. After Yi Qinghan entered the cave, he immediately laid down in the cave and stabbed the slaughter god's saber beside him. Then he took out a dagger from his interspatial ring and started to stab his chest, abdomen, and thigh in a frenzy. 1 stab, 2 stab, 3 stab. In the end, his body was full of wounds. Flesh and blood flew everywhere, and blood flowed all over the cave before stopping. The intense pain caused every muscle in his body to spasm, twitch, and tremble. However, as he mutilated himself, the red light in his eyes gradually dimmed. Although his face was still pale and twisted, it was obvious that he had relaxed. Xiaohei, don't worry. Boss has the soul ring. I won't die. Help me protect me. Yi Qinghan opened his mouth and revealed a smile of relief. Then his head tilted to the side and he fainted. Boss! 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 Xiaohei looked at the badly mutilated Yi Qinghan and shouted in pain. He had accompanied Yi Qinghan all this way. Although Yi Qinghan had also cultivated painfully in the past, he had never been in such a miserable state. The stronger one was, the more pain he had to endure. Every time Yi Qinghan suffered heart-wrenching pain, he could only watch from the side and was unable to help at all. The pain in his heart was worse than if he had been stabbed 100 times. The soul ring's automatic protection function had to wait for Yi Qinghan's injuries to reach a certain level before it would emit a white gas to heal him. Just now, when he was in the demonic aura, the soul ring had already healed most of his injuries. After that, Yi Qinghan killed the dwarf and the rest, and the demons in his heart started to act up. Thus, he could only rely on self-mutilation to activate the soul ring's healing function. Through self-mutilation, he was able to alleviate the murderous intent in his heart. At the same time, he also relied on the miraculous effect of the white gas to eliminate the murderous intent in his soul. Otherwise, he would definitely be engulfed by the murderous intent and turn into a lunatic. SSSS. Only 4 hours had passed since Yi Qinghan fainted in the stone cave. Because of the slaughter god saber, a large number of demons were attracted outside the stone cave. However, these demons only dared to loiter outside the stone cave and did not dare to step inside. The slaughter god saber that was stuck in the stone cave started to emit a white light. When the white light shone on the demonic aura, it started to absorb the black fog. This saber can't be used anymore. This saber can't be used anymore. What should I do? Should I throw this saber out? No way. Without this saber, it will be hard for Boss to survive in the evil spirit stream. However, this saber will destroy Boss sooner or later. What should I do? What should I do? When Xiaohei saw that the demons outside the stone cave started to gather again, and that the slaughter god saber was absorbing the demonic aura again, he panicked and started to walk around the stone cave anxiously. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. He stretched out his claws and started to touch Yi Qinghan's freedom ring. He used his divine senses to envelop the freedom ring and started to call for Elder Lu over and over again. The freedom ring was a passageway to the parallel space in the Freedom Pavilion. Although he was not sure if calling for Elder Lu would have any effect, he still decided to try. Chapter 535. Oh Lu, come out. Big brother is in trouble. Xiaohei used his soul consciousness to call again and again. After a while, his eyes brightened as he felt a soul consciousness shoot out of the unfettered ring. It was old Lu's soul consciousness. Enfiend stream again? Xiaohei, didn't I tell Ohan? You can't open the transportation door of the unfettered pavilion in the Enfiend stream. You can't use the sound transmission technique. There are King God realm experts here. If they find us, we're done for. Old Lu's soul consciousness scanned and locked on Xiaohei. He started to use the sound transmission technique. Then his tone changed, and he said in a panic, What's wrong with little Han? Why are there so many evil demons outside? What's going on? We don't need to worry so much. Old Lu, big brother, is going to die. Why do we need to worry so much? If Big Brother dies, we'll all die. Old Lu, what should we do? What should we do? Xiaohei shook his head, his eyes panic-stricken. He had just become an adult, and his heart was still like a child's. He didn't have the composure to deal with something serious. Previously, he had Lord Devour to rely on, but now he could only rely on Old Lu as his senior, even though he could kill Old Lu easily. Don't panic, Xiaohei. Tell me everything in detail. Old Lu pondered for a while, using his soul consciousness to check the surroundings. Then he sent a sound transmission technique. Yes, it's all because of this saber. It's all because of this saber. But if it weren't for this saber, Big Brother would have been dead. You know, in the Firework tribe, this saber can absorb the souls of beasts. Now, it can also absorb the souls of humans and the aura of evil demons. Xiaohei sent a sound transmission technique to Old Lu. As his soul was connected to Yi Qinghan didn't hide many things from him. Basically, Xiaohei knew everything. At this moment, he told Old Lu everything, hoping that the old man could find a way to make Yi Qinghan return to Yi Qinghan. He killed dozens of godly generals with a single slash, including several peak godly generals. Elder Lu was dumbfounded after hearing this. He sat cross-legged in the training room of the carefree pavilion in silence. How long has it been? Yi Qinghan had actually grown to such an extent? How could this blade be so terrifying? In the past, the Soul Emperor had said that although the rank of this saber was unknown, it was absolutely extraordinary. But he never imagined that it would be extraordinary to such a degree. Yi Qinghan's current strength shocked Elder Lu, not to mention the terrifying power of the saber. He had cultivated for tens of thousands of years before reaching the peak of the heavenly god realm, but now, Yi Qinghan had already reached the divine general realm. He had only cultivated for a little more than 20 years, yet he had already reached the divine general realm. This made him blush slightly. However, when he heard that Yi Qinghan had broken through because Niu Huahua had given him a bottle of red dragon pills and a bottle of summer cordyceps, he felt relieved. Although Yi Qinghan did not know how precious the red dragon pills and summer cordyceps were, Elder Lu knew very well that they were priceless items. That little girl from the Thunder God clan had indeed invested a lot in Yi Qinghan. Elder Lu? Elder Lu, say something. What should I do? Should I let Boss continue like this? If he continues like this, will he turn into a demon? While Elder Lu was sighing to himself, Xiaohei sent another voice transmission to him. Elder Lu laughed bitterly, shook his head, and sent a voice transmission. I have some guesses about this situation, but I don't know all the details. If the Soul Emperor was still around, he would be very clear. Without a doubt, the Slaughter God Saber had undergone a transformation. It could devour souls and the aura of demons. After devouring a certain amount, it could release this devouring aura. The souls that it devoured were probably filled with resentment and murderous aura, which would cause the enemy to enter a very high-level illusion. Martial artists with weak souls would immediately collapse, and their souls would be destroyed. This was similar to a spiritual disorder. It was a spiritual attack. However, this resentment and murderous aura attack had side effects. The side effect is that Little Han would be affected by the resentment and murderous aura and become bloodthirsty. His soul would also be invaded. Luckily, Little Han has the soul ring. If not, he would have already gone crazy. Murderous aura? This? Elder Lu, what should we do? Will Boss go crazy if he can't take it? Xiaohei did not really understand what Elder Lu was saying. He was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. There's no other way, unless he doesn't use the Slaughter God Saber. Or if the soul ring is completely repaired, it will definitely be able to suppress the resentment and murderous aura. It's just that it can't be repaired now. However, if he doesn't use the Slaughter God Saber, you will definitely not be able to walk out of the baleful Een stream. As for whether Little Han can take it or not, only he will know. Sigh. Elder Lu sighed deeply, his voice filled with bitterness. Elder Lu, is there no other way? Little Black weakly lied down in the cave and transmitted his voice to Elder Lu. Perhaps there is another way. Of course, I can't guarantee that it will work. Elder Lu muttered. What is it? Elder Lu. Before Xiao He could speak, a hoarse voice rang out. It was as if his throat was on fire. The voice was dry and rough, causing Xiao He to tremble in fear. Ah, boss, you're awake. How do you feel? Xiao He, who was lying on the ground, suddenly had goosebumps all over its body. After a moment of shock, it stood up with a start and moved its head closer to Yi Qinghan's face as it cried out excitedly. I'm slightly better. The killing intent in my mind has lessened. I can barely suppress it now. Xiao He, don't worry. As long as my soul is fine, the injuries on my body will not be a problem. The backlash from the Slaughter God Saber is too strong. It was too dangerous just now. Try not to use it in the future. Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched as he forced a smile. He blinked his eyes and looked at the Slaughter God Saber. There was a strange look in his eyes. Actually, he had woken up a long time ago. However, he did not even have the strength to open his eyes, let alone send a voice transmission. He heard the voice transmission between Elder Lu and Xiao He clearly through his soul connection with Xiao He. Now that he had recovered a bit of strength, he spoke with difficulty. After comforting Xiao He, he sent a voice transmission to Elder Lu. Elder Lu, what is the other way? Little Han, what is your current condition? Also, what is the condition of your soul when you use the Slaughter God Saber? Tell me. I will give you a reference and see if there is any other way. Elder Lu did not reply. Instead, he asked about Yi Qinghan's condition. The Slaughter God Saber is a great killing weapon. A great killing weapon. Yi Qinghan's eyes revealed a trace of fear as he sighed softly. After thinking for a moment, he sent a voice transmission. This saber can devour souls and evil auras. I think it can devour all negative and bad auras. You guessed correctly. After the Slaughter God Saber absorbs a certain amount of evil aura, I can control the evil aura inside to attack my enemies. This killing intent is very terrifying. At the very least, a peak stage god general would not be able to resist it. However, as the Slaughter God Saber absorbs more killing intent, it affects me even more. Half a day ago, the Slaughter God Saber swallowed the aura of more than 10 demons. When I held the Slaughter God Saber in my hand, I felt a surge of killing intent surging into my mind. I was filled with killing intent, and I wanted to kill all the living beings around me. After that, I released the killing intent and killed more than 10 experts. Only then did the killing intent subside a little. However, I almost couldn't suppress it and almost killed all the people in the firework tribe. After that, I remembered the special effects of the soul ring and found this cave. I injured myself and used the soul ring to save myself. Only then did the killing intent in my mind subside. Elder Lu, this saber is too terrifying. I'm afraid I won't be able to control it the next time I use it. I will be completely possessed. Chapter 536. This saber is indeed terrifying. Elder Lu was shocked and fell silent. After pondering for a long time, he transmitted his voice again. Little Han, I have analyzed your current situation. What you need to do now is to completely eliminate the killing intent in your mind and release it. You cannot allow this killing intent to affect you. The human soul is fundamental. If this killing intent affects you for a long time, your personality will change, and you will no longer be the same person you were before. Elder Lu is right. But why is this killing intent completely gone? Release it? I feel that this soul ring can only help me so much. Or rather, this soul ring can't completely eliminate the negative influence in my mind. Yi Qinghan's heart tightened. He understood what Elder Lu was trying to say. This was easy to understand. It was like a child whose parents had divorced and could not receive the care and love of their parents for a long time. Seeing other children being loved by their parents, he would subconsciously develop an inferiority complex. As time passed, his originally cheerful personality would become depressed and depressed. In the end, he might even become a pervert. If he was affected by this killing intent for a long time, his mind would slowly change. He would become bloodthirsty and irrational. By then, would Yi Qinghan still be himself? It's simple. Release it. Vent your killing intent, but you can't kill people. You cannot use the slaughter god blade to kill anyone. If not, the chances of killing will be even greater. Elder Lu transmitted his voice, which made Yi Qinghan even more confused. How do I release it? Yi Qinghan continued to ask as he squirmed his body. This time, Elder Lu's transmission was a little hesitant as he said awkwardly, "It's simple. Find a few women and do it. Of course, I'm not sure if it will work. In theory, the negative emotions in a person's mind are interconnected. As long as you find a way to release it, it will be effective. Do it? Which one?" Yi Qinghan blinked his eyes and instantly understood. Elder Lu meant to find a few women to do it with and find a place to release the negative emotions in his mind. When he thought of this, he thought of the sisters Bing Shui and Bing Yu. He thought of Yi Yao Rao's cold jade-like body. He even thought of Niu Hua's delicate face and her petite body that had yet to fully grow. Too evil. This killing desire is indeed connected to the evil fire. They are both negative energies. When I thought about women, my mind was filled with lust. I didn't have the slightest bit of killing intent. It seemed that this path was possible. What to do? Do you want to release it? Yi Qinghan realized that as soon as he thought about women, the killing intent in his mind disappeared. His mind was filled with obscene thoughts, and he despised himself again and again. In particular, he actually had evil thoughts about Niu Yaohua. This was absolutely unforgivable. How could he lay his hands on such a young girl? If he wanted to make a move, he would at least have to wait until she was a little older. It's over. Boss was a murderous demon just a moment ago, but now he had turned into a lecher in the blink of an eye. This saber is indeed a great evil weapon, a great demonic weapon. Xiaohei watched as Yi Qinghan's eyes lit up with a lustful light when he heard Elder Lu's words. Yi Qinghan's body was severely injured, and it was difficult for him to even move. However, at this moment, he started to erect a small tent under his robe. Xiaohei could not help but shake his head helplessly. Little Han, after you completely dispel the killing intent in your body, quickly accumulate enough points. Once you have accumulated enough points, you will leave this place first. Remember, if you don't use this saber, you must kill everyone once you use it. Leave no one alive. Otherwise, if word of this spreads to the divine kings in the castle, they will come to snatch it from you. Moreover, after you kill, you must quickly dispel the killing intent in your body before you continue killing. Do not kill continuously. Otherwise, if the killing intent is too strong, you will not be able to withstand it and will be completely lost. Elder Lu reminded Xiaohei after a moment of silence. I understand, Elder Lu. If I can completely restrain the backlash of this saber, killing people and obtaining points will be a piece of cake. As long as I can restrain the backlash of this saber will not be a great evil weapon. It will be a great divine weapon, an invincible divine weapon. Yi Qinghan nodded his head and turned to look at the slaughter god's saber that was emitting a white glow. He looked at the strange patterns on the saber. In his heart, however, he thought that this saber must be a very famous saber. In the future, he could not carry it on his back all the time. If he had to use it as a last resort, he must kill everyone. All right, you are now 10 times stronger than me, and I can't help you much. If there are any problems, we can discuss them after we leave the baleful stream. Don't send too many voice transmissions in the baleful stream. There are divine kings here, and it will be easy for them to discover you. Elder Lu sent another voice transmission and fell silent. Although he seemed to be very relaxed in the carefree pavilion, he was actually very anxious. This was because once Yi Qinghan died, the carefree ring would be refined by someone else. However, the space in the baleful stream was not stable, and the teleportation door could not be opened. He could only watch and worry helplessly. There was nothing he could do. I wonder how many points the midget and the others have in their spatial rings? To be safe, I should wait for my injuries to heal before I kill all the demons outside and leave this cave. There are more and more demons gathering here. If the Demon King is attracted, I will be finished. Let's give it a try. After accumulating 500 points, I will look for the people from the firework tribe. Then, we can leave the baleful stream together. Yi Qinghan's eyes darted around as he made up his mind. He was prepared to give it a try. When his injuries were healed, he would go out to hunt demons and snatch points from other martial artists. After killing, he would mutilate himself. This way, the soul ring would save him and relieve the evil aura in his mind. At the same time, he planned to hunt a few female martial artists and test the effects of the evil aura in his mind. After accumulating 500 points, he would look for the people from the firework tribe. If he left with them now, he was afraid that he would lose control and kill all of them. That would be troublesome. He is finally back. He is back, but half of the 50 people who went out are still outside. He still hasn't returned. Outside the ancient Blue Dragon Castle, Niu Patian supported Niu Huiyin as he looked at the ancient Blue Dragon Castle with a group of people. The first time he left the castle, he had brought more than 2,000 people with him. The second time, there were only 50 people. Now, there were less than 30 people, and some of them were injured. After Yi Qinghan left the team, they continued to wander in the baleful stream. This time, they were lucky. They only met a few evil demons and many demon dwellers. The few groups of martial artists they met were not interested in them. They used their soul consciousness to check, and then left. They were lucky enough to return to the ancient Blue Dragon Castle. He didn't come back. He didn't come back. Yi Yaorao stood outside the castle, staring into the distance in a daze. She thought of that lonely figure and murmured to herself. It had been so long, and there was no news of him. She didn't know his situation or whether he was dead or alive. She missed him very much. Missing him was a kind of illness, and Yi Yaorao's illness was beyond cure. Let's go. Big sister, maybe you will come back in a few days. Bing Shui and Bing Yu came over and pulled Yi Yaorao. The two of them comforted Yi Yaorao as if they were comforting themselves. The people of the firework tribe exhaled at the same time and walked into the castle. She walked towards their courtyards. However, unbeknownst to them, there were 3 experts in the courtyards that looked at Niu Yaohua as she walked past. They revealed greedy expressions at the same time. Then, they quietly shifted their divine senses away. Chapter 537. Sir Qing Yao. In a room in the backyard of courtyard number 314, a peak divine general expert rushed into the room. He then knelt down on one knee at the door and shouted in a deep voice, "What is it?" As soon as the voice rang out, a mighty giant appeared at the door. His brown hair was unruly and carelessly draped over his back. His fierce-looking face was covered with a full beard that left a deep impression on people. His towering body exuded a powerful aura. The target has returned to the castle. The team has been reduced by more than half, and will be leaving the castle again in half a month. The kneeling expert said respectfully. He paused for a moment, then said hesitantly, "This subordinate also discovered that there are 2 other teams that are also interested in the target." "Oh!" Divine General Qing Yao's eyes turned cold. How strong are they? He didn't doubt this subordinate's scouting abilities at all. This martial artist cultivated the law of wind, so his speed and detection abilities were definitely at the peak of Divine Generals. One team has 23 peak Divine Generals, and the other team has 40 peak Divine Generals. However, this subordinate deduces that there aren't many peak Divine Generals who have comprehended mid-rank profound mysteries. The kneeling martial artist quickly added, "What is there to fear? As usual, anyone who dares block our path to riches will be killed without mercy." Sir Qing Yao flicked his curly hair, his expression exuding a disdainful aura. This was a confidence that was built on his own strength, a confidence that he had gained after experiencing many life and death situations. Sir Qing Yao is mighty. The kneeling martial artist gazed at the peerless divine, General Qing Yao, with a trace of fanaticism and worship. That's right. They were the team of peak divine generals that Niu Patian had encountered when he left the Azure Dragon Castle. They hadn't been sent here because they had violated the laws of the God realm, but because someone had secretly arranged for them to be sent here. They were a very common organization in the God realm, a bounty hunter team that specialized in black market business and shady business. The God realm was filled with danger, and bounty hunters like them were even more dangerous. They had been on the brink of annihilation many times in the past, but this bearded bandit like Sir Qing Yao had always led them out of dire straits. While leading everyone to complete their missions, he distributed a large number of treasures to everyone. He even bought divine crystals of peak divine generals for many martial artists who had difficulty improving their strength. As a result, the Cyan Glory Squad was made up entirely of divine generals, and their strength was definitely ranked in the top 50 among the tens of thousands of bounty hunter squads in Longyang Prefecture. Although the entire team was made up of peak divine generals, the martialists knew better than anyone else. What allowed a team to rank in the top 50 wasn't the fact that they had close to 100 peak divine generals. Instead, it was because of this bandit like Lord Qing Yao and his two vice leaders. Although peak divine generals sounded about the same in terms of strength, there was actually a huge gap between them. Qing Yao alone could kill half of the warriors in the team. Although they were both peak divine generals, it depended on whether they had comprehended the laws on their own or had refined a divine crystal to comprehend the laws within it. Comprehending the laws also depended on the profound mysteries of the laws, whether they were mid-level profound mysteries or low-level profound mysteries, or both. There were three ways to break through to the divine general realm. First, like Yi Ching Han, one had to comprehend a mid-level profound mystery formed from the fusion of three basic laws. Second, three low-level profound mysteries formed from the fusion of two basic laws. Third, 9 basic profound mysteries formed from the fusion of 9 basic laws. The higher the grade of the profound mystery, the greater its power. It could be said that a divine general expert who had comprehended mid-level profound mysteries could easily kill 100 divine generals who had comprehended 9 basic profound mysteries. This was the gap between them. When martial artists comprehended the laws of heaven and earth, the easiest ones to comprehend were the basic laws. There was a martialist in their squad who had comprehended a total of 25 basic laws of various elements. He had forcibly raised his strength to peak divine general through the use of the basic profound mysteries. He was prepared to continue comprehending 2 more basic profound mysteries, and then break through to the God King realm after comprehending 27. He had said that his life's goal was to comprehend 81 basic profound mysteries and break through to the God Emperor realm. Everyone in the squad had advised him many times to walk the path of fusing profound mysteries. Although he had comprehended many laws, he was the weakest in the squad. Even if he broke through to the God King realm, many people in the same squad could easily kill him. This was because he had comprehended the lowest level of the basic laws, and his offensive and defensive abilities were both relatively low level. But their leader, Lord Qing Yao, was different. Although he had only comprehended 2 profound mysteries, they were both mid-level profound mysteries. Moreover, he was about to reach great accomplishment in his 3rd mid-level profound mystery and break through to the God King realm. Moreover, the 2 mid-level profound mysteries he had comprehended were offensive profound mysteries of the supreme laws. Their offensive power was so great that even ordinary God Kings would not dare to take a blow from him head-on. This was the difference in profound mysteries. Quantity could never compare to quality. Pass down my orders. In half a month, we will depart. Once we complete the mission, we will leave Balefulline Stream, and then we will go to Fallen Red City to enjoy 10 years. In addition, have Vice Commanders Qing Ri and Qing to come over. Qing Yao enjoyed the looks of worship from his subordinates. He had always believed that experts had to enjoy this sort of treatment. Understood. As soon as the kneeling martialist heard Fallen Red City, a look of wild joy appeared on his face. He bowed deeply to Qing Yao, expressing his sincere gratitude. Then he turned into a cool breeze and drifted away. This brat speed in the law of wind is really fast. Although the law of light and destruction that I comprehended is powerful, Speed is my weakness. I will focus my comprehension on the law of wind next. Speed is also very important. Qing Yao stretched out his hands and stroked his beard. After a moment of silence, he walked into the room. Miss, the harvest this time is huge. There are more than 20 million divine stones in all the spatial rings, countless pills, treasures, weapons, 7 or 8 peak God, general God crystals, more than 40 second or third-tier God, general God crystals, and several hundred other God crystals. The harvest from this battle with the dwarf martialists is estimated to be at least 50 million divine stones. Moreover, they have more than 130 devil tokens, which means more than 130 points. In Courtyard 88, Niu Zhantian and Niu Wangtian were calculating the spoils of war. There were so many experts in the dwarf martialist team, not to mention the wealth in their spatial rings. Even if they sold all their God crystals, it would be a huge fortune. Especially the peak God, general God crystals. Each one was worth 5 million divine stones. This was because only after a peak God, general God crystal was refined could a martialist continue to refine God crystals of the next level. If a warrior refined the divine crystal of a level 3 divine general, he would be stuck at the level of a level 3 divine general for the rest of his life. Therefore, the price of a level 3 divine general was about the same as that of a peak stage heavenly god. Take out all the devil tokens and give them to Uncle Patian. Don't touch the rest of the divine stones. Put them all in one spatial ring. Niu Yaohua's expression did not change after hearing this. In the face of such a huge fortune, her big watery eyes did not waver at all. Instead, she looked at the sky outside the door and said, "If Big Brother Yi comes back, give it all to him. If he doesn't come back, give it all to the brothers and sisters in the team." This, Niu Zhantian and Niu Wangtian were a little shocked. Although they knew that Niu Yaohua was very rich, 50 million divine stones was definitely a huge sum. Yet, she was not moved at all. However, they thought that if not for Yi Qinghan, they would probably all be dead. If not for him, their spatial rings and God crystals would probably be searched by others. Young lady, don't be too sad. Since little brother Yi can save everyone from danger several times, I believe he will also return safely. He is a man who can create miracles. Niu Patian, who was beside her, understood Niu Yaohua's heart. He smiled bitterly and comforted her. At the same time, he comforted himself. Yes, he will come back. He is the first man that I, Niu Yaohua, see in a different light apart from my father. How can he be demonized or die so easily? Niu Yaohua nodded and said with certainty. Then, she closed her eyes and leaned against the wall to sleep. Chapter 538. So close, yet worlds apart. Why do I feel like I'm comprehending it in the wrong direction? In the desolate desert, a green silhouette was sprinting on the Gobi Desert, which was filled with gravel and yellow sand. His body turned into a series of afterimages, and along the way, more than 10 green silhouettes appeared. Finally, his body suddenly stopped, and the afterimages behind him disappeared one by one, condensing into a single silhouette. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was holding a yellow iron rod the size of a fist. His brows were tightly knitted together. His eyebrows were furrowed, as if he was thinking about something. After a moment, he muttered a few words, and his body moved again. Once again, he turned into a blur, rushing forward. Although there were many blurs, his speed didn't increase at all. It just looked good. It's still wrong. No, it's wrong. It's definitely wrong. Half a day later, Yi Qinghan once again stopped in his tracks. He stared blankly at the yellow sand that filled the sky as he whizzed through the air. He could only hear the sharp sound of the cold wind as he stood there foolishly. Wrong. This so close, yet worlds apart ancestors' calculations were wrong. This is definitely not the profound mysteries of space. My comprehension direction is also wrong. This is the profound mysteries of wind, formless wind. Formless like the wind, 1,000 miles in an instant. It looks so close, but in the blink of an eye, It's so far away. Right. That's it. Ha! Suddenly, Yi Qinghan threw his head back and laughed wildly. His eyes were filled with ecstasy. His body suddenly shot up into the sky, flashing like lightning. And then suddenly, his body took a step in the air, and his body suddenly disappeared. He turned into a gust of wind, silently drifting into the distance. In the blink of an eye, his body condensed 1,000 meters away. Then he took another step and turned into a gust of wind. In the next second, he turned back, and his body condensed again. It was truly miraculous. Right? The space of the God realm is stable. Without reaching a certain level in the profound mysteries of space, one can't rely on it to increase one's speed. But the profound mysteries of wind are different. Wind is formless, and it can penetrate anything. No matter how stable the space is, no matter how dense it is, no matter how strong the gravity is, I am formless, and I can move 1,000 miles in an instant. The formlessness of wind is truly miraculous. After studying it for several months, Yi Qinghan finally succeeded in cultivating the secret skill, so close, yet worlds apart, which only existed in theory. In fact, he had taken a detour, and the theory that Yi Ruoshui had provided was also wrong. By a freak combination of factors, Yi Qinghan managed to gain a basic understanding of the laws of wind, formless wind. He still hadn't gained a basic understanding of the two spatial profound mysteries, but he had actually gained a basic understanding of the laws of wind. Forget it. I'll continue to comprehend the formless wind to the major success stage. I'm only at the entry stage, and my speed has already increased by 2 times. I'm afraid that my speed will increase by several times after reaching the major success stage. Yi Qinghan was in a good mood. He laughed loudly as he stood up and began to walk around baleful stream without fear. As he walked, he practiced the newly learned so near, yet worlds apart while comprehending the profound mysteries of the formless law of wind. He felt that there was still a lot of room for improvement in this so close, yet worlds apart. Perhaps when he completely mastered it, he would really be able to travel 1,000 miles in an instant. Stop. A group of martial artists wore cold expressions as they spread out in an arc, quickly forming an encirclement and surrounding the area in front of them. At this moment, an azure-colored figure slowly materialized in the middle of the battlefield. He came to a halt, holding an azure-colored metal rod in his hand. His eyes swept across the surrounding martial artists in disgust as he barked coldly, "Scram! I don't want to kill anyone." Brothers, did you hear that? He said he doesn't want to kill anyone? He, a first-level divine general, said he doesn't want to kill us? Brat, you're too arrogant. Be careful not to bite your tongue. Obediently hand over your spatial ring or join us. Otherwise die. Submit or die. Boss, don't waste your breath on him. Chop him up first. The azure-robed man's words elicited loud laughter from the surrounding martial artists, and their gazes became even more disdainful. There were over 100 people in their group. More than 80 of them were divine general powerhouses, and their leader was a peak divine general powerhouse. Although the leader had only comprehended a middle-grade profound mystery, and the rest were all low-grade profound mysteries, he was still in existence that divine general powerhouses could only look up to. This first-level divine general powerhouse actually told them to scram. He didn't want to kill anyone? Yi Qinghan indeed didn't want to kill anyone. During this period of time, he had met 7 to 8 small groups, but he avoided them whenever he could. If he couldn't avoid them, he would use spiritual confusion to stun them before leaving. Killing people was very easy for him. In the baleful stream, there were very few people that he couldn't kill. However, the baleful aura in his mind hadn't been completely eliminated. Killing people would only make his baleful aura stronger, and it was very likely that his personality would change and he would gradually go crazy. Hence, after he recovered from his injuries, he decisively kept the slaughter god blade and chose a metal rod from the spatial ring that he had obtained. Then he started to walk in the desert and think of a way to eliminate the baleful aura in his mind. I really don't want to kill anyone. Scram! Although he was trying his best to control the killing intent in his mind, his eyes still involuntarily turned red. He knew that he couldn't wait any longer. Otherwise, if he couldn't suppress the killing intent in his mind, everyone in front of him would die. There would be no exceptions. Hence, he roared angrily and activated his absolute domain. Then his body shot up and charged in a certain direction. F***CKU. I gave you face, but you don't want it. Brothers, chop 'em up? Ha! There was a path in the heaven domain, but you didn't take it. Instead, you barged into the purgatory. Die! Kill! The leader roared angrily, and everyone started to move. The weapons in their hands lit up with colorful lights, and their bodies emitted a boundless killing intent as they swarmed towards Yi Qinghan. Spiritual confusion scram, a bewitching purple light lit up, and the tens of experts near Yi Qinghan all stopped in midair. Yi Qinghan swung his metal rod randomly and sent them flying. There are actually 2 more second-stage divine general martial artists who didn't stun them. A look of surprise appeared in Yi Qinghan's red eyes. However, he didn't hesitate. He activated so near, yet worlds apart, and his speed suddenly increased. He dodged the attacks of the 2 martial artists and used the shockwaves from their blades to bounce back. His speed increased by a notch as he shot into the distance. Where are you running to? Chase him! Chop him up! By the time the people at the back had surrounded him, Yi Qinghan had already broken out of the encirclement and was flying far away. The martial artists at the back were enraged. At the same time, some of the martial artists who were stunned also woke up. Their expressions changed, and they prepared to give chase. Only a few martial artists hesitated and stopped. Stopped chasing him. At this moment, a thunderous voice rang out. Everyone immediately stopped and looked at the person who had spoken. It was their leader. You fools! Are you going to die? Their leader, a black-armored martial artist, stared at the disappearing green figure with a gloomy expression. He revealed a trace of fear and said with lingering fear, "That's an expert who cultivates the soul. If he really wanted to kill people just now, I'm afraid that more than half of you would have died. If he wanted to go on a killing spree, I'm afraid that apart from the Dove Fish and Dove Sharp brothers who have decent soul cultivation, everyone else would have been killed instantly, including me. Only then did everyone come to their senses. When they recalled that bewitching purple light and the inexplicable dizziness in their souls, their expressions changed. This first-level heavenly god realm trash cultivator was actually a legendary expert who cultivated the soul secret skill. Let's go. If we encounter such an expert in the future, we must avoid him. The leader looked in the direction that Yi Qinghan had disappeared to, then led the way and flew in the opposite direction. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.